Coming to you live from CBT Studios in the heart of Roseville, California. I'm your host, Matt, and join with me as always are my two co-hosts,
Andrew,
Roger,
and today we're joined with a very special guest,
Justin.
And this is the Cryptid vs. Cryptid podcast. Now play that bombastic music. We're back. It's that time of year once again.
Yep.
Another Cryptid versus Cryptid Mashup and Rehash.
Third one that we've done.
Third one.
This one's probably been the longest waiting one, too.
Yeah, I was looking back and we haven't... It's been months and months since we've recorded Jersey Devil versus Thunderbird.
Yeah, the intro to this season.
But it's a special day because the music you just heard was made up by our own special guest, Justin.
Let's go.
Hey, thanks. I should have brought a new one just for this.
Not required.
Yeah.
I mean, love the intro song, and it's iconic at this point since it's the only one we've had.
There you go.
It's so tied to the podcast at this point. He's basically just the ghost member.
Pretty much, yeah. Cover image, intro music.
Hey, it's interesting every time I listen to it. I'm like, yeah, headphones are in the car. I like it in the car.
But it's awesome to finally have you on. I know we've talked about it, and it is definitely long overdue.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Now I know what you guys look like, and I was pretty damn close. Not like some podcasts, and you look them up, and you're like...
Yeah.
No, I was following like an alien podcast, and I was like, okay, I got like kind of a mental image, but it was completely different. They're all like super old dudes.
Well, if you look at like the Kryptonaut podcast, they all look like me. They're all like my age.
Yeah.
All that shit. I was like, well, that's not what I pictured. I pictured them younger.
But not only are we celebrating Justin's introduction to the show, we've also hit 2,000 downloads.
2,000 downloads, baby.
What, it's been 4 months since 1,000?
I think so, yeah.
So we went from, our initial 6 months to hitting 1,000 to now shortening it down to 4 months hitting 2,000.
The growth is insane. That's all I can say.
It was pretty cool to see the stats like that.
And just to say it, we thank you all for the support. It is bombastic with the amount of listens coming in and people following the show. We won't be covering this in any kind of special until the end of the year. We're going to do like a whole collaborative thing with all the holidays. So when that comes out, obviously you'll know it'll be around Christmas, New Year's Eve kind of thing. Besides that, we'll be sticking to the normal schedule, normal episodes, a special episode, then the special. Also, if you're still interested in the Cryptid Crate that we're giving away for free, be sure to email us at cryptidversuscryptid@gmail.com. That is
CRYPTIDVSCRYPTID@gmail.com.
And with all that said, I think we can hop into the episode.
Yeah, that's enough for the intro. Let's go.
All right. This is the first part of the show where we get your opinion on the show.
Yeah,
and
it's all about Justin.
You've known about the show since...
Before you even started the show. So
yeah.
That's when I'm like, I'm doing the theme song.
So what are some thoughts, criticisms, things you
Tell
like?
us what you think about the show.
Yeah,
I wish I could talk back to it when I'm listening to it, to be honest. No, I think it's freaking great. Because I kind of grew up with like the Dungeons and Dragons. And so basically like the scorekeeping aspect was I was wondering how you were going to hit that. When you were talking about how you were going to do the battles and all that stuff. I'm like, I wonder what are they going to utilize? And I like it because it boils down and it gives you more leeway. And I did have a curveball that I was thinking about. Okay, if the Skinwalker can turn into North American animals, can the Skinwalker go Bigfoot?
Well, listen, we got some stat and fight changes coming up, so you'll be able to throw out some of that stuff.
And I mean, that opens the door to many possibilities besides Bigfoot.
Oh, God. Yeah, so that was my curveball. No, I think you guys are doing good. I'm impressed by it. I like it. Definitely, first Patreon guy. I suggest you guys join Patreon because it's worth it. And we need more people in there. That way we can get activity going on the Discord because I don't like being the only smart ass in there. I kind of thrive on that shit. So, yeah, and I just appreciate being here and being part of it.
Thank you for the Patreon boost. We've gotten kind of lazy. but we're gonna fix that.
Hey, I'm not worried about it. I'm a busy motherfucker now. I got school 3 days.
3 days now.
One of them's full time at school. So I got homework, work,
Yeah.
girlfriend, dogs, sleep when, don't know.
But we're planning some stuff. We got our special holiday episode coming out at the end of the month. No spoilers there. Can't do an after hours tonight because we do have a schedule, unfortunately. But we'll remedy that next time you're on.
Yeah.
But we're going to really push out some new series, or at least try to bulk record a bunch of new stuff in the near future. Any other stuff you got to say about the show?
No, I just wish you guys the best and keep at it. Like, don't give up if something discourages you along the way, because then, it's easy doing stuff. My background comes from being in bands, so it's a similar thing that you're doing. So just stay to it as the three of you at least. Don't try not to lose anybody.
Trying not to.
There we go. That's what I can say.
Well, we're dressed up as the board members. There might have to be some cuts here.
For those of you that can't see it, they dressed up and I didn't. So,
yeah, special episode. You're finally on 2,000 downloads.
Yeah. We felt we need to celebrate a little bit.
I just wish I had a full-on tux, but, business casual works just as well.
I've never gone further than what you're wearing right now, so.
That's what you do. You don't
I've never had the coat.
I don't know. I want to dress up fancy like that sometimes. The only time I get to wear this is for funerals, and now it's just led into an awkward spot. All right.
Hey, they happen.
With that talk out of the way, and as far as the discouraging thing, that's why I love seeing all the support and hitting 2,000 downloads. That's like, okay, people are fucking following this shit. Now it's almost like we gotta keep it up because I enjoy it, so I don't mind keeping it up, and people look forward to it.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we're here every 2 weeks, just about, for pretty much every episode.
We've gotten a little lazy the last couple weeks, but shit's come up, so
That's life.
let's hop into some going back, checking out what we've done, possibly making some changes. So first, we'll cover Jersey Devil versus Thunderbird, which the one thing I do remember from recording this episode is there was a big disconnect between me and you two when it came to the Thunderbird.
As far as we thought it was stronger than it was.
Cover that when we get to it. First, let's talk some Jersey Devil. Hopping into characteristics, abilities, and stats. For characteristics, we have wings, goat horns, pointed tail. I don't think anything's going to change there as far as description. And then for abilities, we have fire/acid breath. Anybody got any changes there? Add-ons? No? Cool. Now, let's talk about some stats. We have intelligence of 5, power of 7, defense of 4, mobility of 8, HP of 4, stealth of 6. Looking at it and remembering the origin, I'm almost thinking we bump up the intelligence a point because it was from a human.
I was just thinking that. I was like, he was human at some point. We did say that if it's reversion.
The thing is, I think what we said was that he was human for like the first 6 years of his life, and that's when he started to see some changes. It was somewhere around there where he was a kid, and that's why.
That's why we said developmentally it wasn't full capacity.
Mm-hmm. But if you still take in the human brain into factor, I still think it's a tier above most. Think that could justify putting it to a 6.
I would justify it, but it's almost kind of like I'm not going to say Frankenstein. What am I thinking of? Kind of just like any transformation like Goatman's, where it just affects the mind to where it turns it more into a monster. Now, Goatman's a little different because that's scientifically he changed. Whereas this is like a curse, so he curses them to become a monster.
Yeah, more of a demonic kind of change.
Yeah.
Well, then let me say this. We'll go human adult mind, ripe, is a 10. Where would you throw the human child mind onto the scale? Because while they may not have the knowledge of an adult, it's still the human mind.
Maybe a 7.
I was going to say baseline 5.
Baseline 5, really.
It's because the kid's mind, it's more of... A kid's mind is more of they run through a lot, they ask for a lot of questions, but whereas like a grown adult's mind is more of they're developed, they don't really have too many questions because they've seen it all, they know what they're doing.
But that would be more experience
Kids
as far as capacity.
Thing is, kids make mistakes, adults don't.
Still
tend to
make
not
mistakes.
They make mistakes, but not as much as kids make.
True. I
They
mean,
think their stuff out through before they say anything. Kids don't. Stuff like that.
The problem solving factor kind of thing.
yeah, comprehensive. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, because you still believe in Santa till what age? Guess that depends on your family.
I think I made it to 9.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
Well, my grandma liked to keep up the charade.
That's true.
I had shitty cousins.
I played that role for my sister. So
I had Christmas one year. My cousin got up before everybody and opened all the presents. It was the
Just-
year I got my first bicycle that was like mine. My cousin was already out riding his. So I wake up like second. Apparently, it's still kind of dark. Walk out the Christmas tree, and there's all his shit is open, and he's gone.
I don't know if that is a savage move or just kind of fucked up.
Well, where he is in life now,
Yeah, no, I found out because my grandma had, Santa, quote unquote, had bought me like a DS for Christmas. So, throughout the year I'm playing on the DS all the time. And my grandma would slip up and she'd be like, "Where's the DS I got you?" I'd be like, "Didn't Santa get that for me?" And eventually the truth just came out after like her saying it so many times. I was like, okay, we need to talk. What's going on here?
I love the idea. Now that you're in business casual, you going up to your grandma with the same outfit, like, all right, grandma, give me the true hard
It's
facts
the
here.
short text and
Yeah,
and everything.
exactly.
But to go back to the intelligence thing of a baseline level for like a child like that, I lean more towards 5 myself.
Really?
Really?
Because think about it. If you were to take a child that age and dump them off in the woods, how far are they going to get?
True, 6 years old is pretty young.
It is. I mean, I don't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole, because then I would bring up these things called missing 411 cases, if you've heard of those. And
Absolutely.
albeit a lot of the children, they don't make it, but they make it a great distance, and I believe there's at least got to be 1 or 2 cases where they do return home. Then my other argument would be bringing up the Romans and how they would send their children out at young ages to survive in the wilderness as a sort of test. But then I think it delves into like a nature versus nurture thing. I definitely don't think if one of us had a kid, drop that kid off in the woods, my kid wouldn't survive. He'd be like, there's no Legos out here to build a house.
I mean, that would be based on like the society that kid came from, almost situation. So that is a rabbit hole.
It's
Yeah.
like that. It's also kind of more of like how the kid thinks and how good their IQ is and how problem solving they are. Because some
Yeah.
kids can problem solve, other kids can't. Stuff like that.
I think it comes down to its environment and what's going to happen. So,
Gee, that's tough. So on an average, that's it.
exactly.
When I was going into it, I was thinking like a 7, just because it's still the human mind, and I think
It grows.
it grows, it has the potential for growth, and even though it is a child, the mind itself is still leagues above your common house animal. Then I would think we'd have to establish what basic animal would be at the 5 on the chart to be like, okay, how does the kid compare to this?
True.
Well, there's some. I think we did for like dogs and stuff. Because Devin was talking about Dogman and how dogs are more intelligent, like probably one of the more intelligent ones besides dolphins and everything. And that's what moved Dogman up to a 6, I think, or something else like that. But for base animal, like deers and fucking sheep and everything, they're 2. 2, 1, whatever.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Whereas more primal ones that are like predators are going to be higher, probably like 3s to 4s, depending on the one.
I could have sworn last episode we said something about dogs being 5, just because they have the comprehensive
We
ability
did the
to...
Cryptid Crate episode, and I don't remember talking
And
about
we haven't
dogs.
talked about dogs in a while.
I swear, one of the last few episodes we talked about dogs, because we said somehow its comprehensive ability was at least a 5 because it knows human words and recognition.
I know we've talked about that at some point, I just can't recall when.
I could have sworn we were sitting right here, but I could have...
We did talk about comprehensive skill. I don't know if it was about dogs though. You might have mentioned, oh yeah, dogs know how to.
And I'll bring that to my argument. They are children, but they do have that comprehensive ability of language.
Exactly.
That's why it's baseline 5. That's why I say it. They know how to talk, but it's not well. Whereas humans can speak fluently.
Are you trying to up his intelligence?
Well, I think where I'm coming from for this is if he has a 7 and we degrade it, it goes down to a 6, just because the demon transformation. I don't know where you're coming from with the 7, but...
I'm basically at the same road. I'm seeing how high I can go and then bumping it down a point. I don't know, I just feel like 5 is a little low for the human mind, albeit a child's.
So the thing is, that's where I put baseline, like, just child. Now this thing has been surviving for years and years, and so still having a human mind, nonetheless a child, it still knows how to remember stuff and how to survive and all that.
So you're more in the camp that it doesn't necessarily degrade and then stop, but more it degrades initially, but it continues
so it
to...
stops at a certain point to where it kind of lowers it, and then it'll kind of slowly gain.
Okay, just much less slow.
It's like a superhero gaining powers where their powers cause them troubles, but then they learn how to use those powers, and then...
I see what you're saying. Then what number would you give it overall? Because you said 5 for the child mind, but what would we give Devilman now?
So yeah, if we go...
Or Jersey
Devilman.
Jersey Devil.
Man. Oh,
Sorry.
So if we go with the 5, minus the 4, but then we take into account what you've said, how far up would that raise it? If we take in the mind is developing over time.
it's at a 7, right?
Right now? It's at
No,
5.
it's at currently to 5.
Oh.
So we
I'd
were
say-
talking about raising it.
I'd almost say probably 7. With how many years? Actually, like over 200, pretty much.
I can go for that, but I want to bring up is the demonic part of the Jersey Devil going to affect its intelligence at all. I know we try and stay away from, demons and ghosts and all that.
I think
This one is one of those situations where it is the backstory, is this demonic aspect, so we do have to somewhat take into account for it.
That's a rabbit hole into itself, though, because does that bring its own influence that could add to decision-making, problem-solving skills? All of a sudden you have heightened, so I wouldn't put that into it too much.
I just want to throw it out completely because I think that while its transformation is demonic, it has that nature about it. I don't think it has any other powers that would constitute... It doesn't have any other feats that constitute it being demonic.
Alright. So what are we thinking for the final stat? I know Roger threw out a 7. Andrew? I know that's what we were gunning for before the transformation.
I like the 6 initially. I'm okay with the 7, but I don't know how much that alters the fight.
Justin?
6 or 7. I mean, like you said, the 200 plus years, who knows what that could add as far as experience-wise. That could add to stealth. I mean, they're deep rabbit holes, but yeah, I would go 6 or 7 versus 5.
That was a really good point, the 200 years, the developing brain. I think I'm going to have to go with the 7. Alright, the Jersey Devil has been bumped up to intelligence of 7. Are we thinking any changes for power?
Not really.
Factoring
He's
in
not...
fire, acid breath.
I think we already factored that in.
I'm pretty sure that was part of the episode, yeah.
What about defense?
I think I'd want to change it if we threw in the demonic thing earlier, but I'm not so sure now.
He's his gangly motherfucker, so I mean... and my image goes to the default one you see with like the horse head and the scrawny ass body.
Exactly.
So, and it's hard for me to pick another one to go with, even though I've seen plenty more. That's the one that's stuck first. So I just picture this awkward thing. But yeah, I don't. Nothing about his design is really defense orientated as far as physically.
I thought almost for a second like maybe the shield is a wing, but those things aren't very strong either, so they just get torn to shreds.
Exactly.
I think what we did, because defense wasn't that high, is that we made the mobility like his main defense more of.
Well, speaking of mobility, he's sitting at an 8. Is there any changes we want to bring there?
Speed feats would bring it to a 9, but nothing sees him moving insanely fast.
I am going to bring this up. I don't remember if we factored it in. He is air and land based.
We did.
Did we?
That's
Yeah.
why I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah, we brought the fight down to the ground, I think, and Thunderbird didn't do very well at all. So
Yeah. That's right. I believe we had him like escaping or dodging by going to the ground and
He
using
went
that.
into the forest area.
Yeah, he went into the
so
trees.
We're gonna see him.
There's nothing I would change about the 8. Anybody else?
No.
Alright. And how about some HP? A hard one to gauge, but he's sitting at a 4. Also, don't keep in mind the demonic aspect.
I think 4 is probably good.
I mean, Justin brought it up earlier, but this guy's pretty gangly, so it's not like he's got much going on health-wise.
You want to lower it?
Well,
No,
you
I think
know,
you need to lower it. It's probably.
it is a
fine.
transformation. He has been surviving for 200 years, so
Fair.
give him a little credit.
And lastly, we'll round it out with stealth. He's sitting at a stealth of 6.
Was there too many sightings of this guy? I can't remember.
I don't remember. It's been like 3 months since we've done this.
Not tons, but I mean, it was one of those. It was the classic rash of sightings for a bit, and then
a local
something like in 50 different towns. It was so were there 50 different sightings? As far as the actual reported ones, or is that just part of rumor? Who knows?
The only big one that comes to mind is the initial story of, the birth of the Jersey Devil. That's the one that comes to mind instantly. When I was doing my research for the episode, I kind of went down this podcast rabbit hole of the Jersey Devil and more of like a debunking and finding where the true origin of it lied in this whole mess of politics from way, way back. A lot of my knowledge doesn't derive from a lot of sightings, more of just me researching in general.
Yeah, I know a lot of the sightings that I read and everything was more of it being kind of like just in the forest. You would see it, and then it just dart away.
Yeah, I think it just became more of a local legend than anything else.
And then let's also factor in the increased intelligence we gave it. Do you think that would come into play for the stealth at all?
It might a little bit.
Because
It might use it to where it knows its advantages of it can fly, but it can also go down on the ground and hide. So if it's finding something like the Thunderbird, it knows what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that can play a part in the stealth. I just don't know if that would lead to it being bumped up by one.
Yeah, is it like a whole point worthy is really the question here. Because, I mean, we don't do any half points here, so.
Nah. I almost want to say 1, not solely based on just the number 7, but the idea that it's learning and developing in the forest. I imagine learning how to hunt different ways, but I'd also be fine not changing it at all.
Yeah, the only factor I could see that would change it would be experience for being around 200 years. So you'd have to address every single one of them like that. That's anyone that's been around for
years and years and years. Then I'm fine keeping it at a 6.
I am too.
I am too.
And that concludes the Jersey Devil, who got bumped up to intelligence of 7 with no other changes.
Alright, he's locked in with those numbers.
Now, let's talk about the Thunderbird, one of my personal favorites. We have characteristics: 16 feet wingspan, 16-foot wingspan. Abilities: can generate thunderstorms. Any changes there? Okay.
I mean, to reiterate, it was more so that it's the coming of the thunderstorm afterward. It's not like
It's
literally
more of
just
a
generate
predecessor. It's kind of like a Mothman with thunderstorms.
Yeah.
They goes and then the thunder follows.
one. Exactly.
Good tie-in. Fuck you, Mothman sucks. Alright, then let's hop into stats. Intelligence of 7. Any changes here?
I don't come up with enough of anything to.
Yeah, neither do I.
What?
You guys?
We gave it a pretty high intelligence.
Yeah.
Do you know
It was-
why we did that?
I think it was because of the Native American factor, the fact that it was like a watcher, and then also that it's avian, and we know that birds are pretty intelligent. But I think that was... Oh, and the thunderstorm thing.
Are you trying to drop it?
I was
making
just
it
like, I
lower.
was trying to think of why we gave it so high.
Okay.
Because I was thinking maybe it was a deity as well, but I don't think it was.
I'm pretty sure it was. Or
The
it's
Native
some...
Americans.
The Native Americans...
I don't
thought
know
of
if
it
it's
as a greater being or something.
maybe
like that.
that.
That's what it was, yeah.
But yeah, I don't see any changes there. How about power? Sitting at a power of 8.
I might have an issue with this one.
Alright.
Okay, something with that wingspan, there's no way it's taking out a whale.
Is that something we brought up?
We brought up that it carries whales. You said that, actually. You were like,
Did
oh,
I?
I read something and it
Yeah.
says it carries whales to its nests.
That was one of the stories. So, not my fact.
I mean, maybe
Somebody
drag it to
else's.
shore, slowly but surely. But if you've ever been next to a whale, no.
No?
No.
Alright.
It does only have like a 50-foot wingspan, I'm pretty sure. Or that might be just one
Wait,
wing.
16 foot.
Yeah.
16? Oh, never mind.
Even with 50,
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I'd give someone with 50 the ability to lift a whale. Not necessarily a blue whale, maybe like an orca or something. But
Then how far down are you thinking of dropping it?
7.
Okay, that's not.
I mean, I get that it has the wings and all of it, and birds do bump chests when they battle sometimes, so that's also something. It could have a smashing impact. So I don't know. Maybe don't mess with it. I just want to address the whale issue.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it did carry a whale, that'd be literally bigger than Bigfoot's strength, if anything. And I think that's why we brought that up.
Yeah.
And why it's lower than...
a 10. Yeah. Exactly, yeah. I don't know.
I can, if we take into factor what Justin said and the fact that it's more than likely a hollowed bone creature because it is avian.
I don't know if I want to drop it though, because I think the hollow bone thing is good for if we were going for like defense or HP. But
I mean, it can get a lot of momentum behind it, so trying to take away its power is, I don't know. That's
it does have the beak and the claws as well.
That's what I was about to say. It's the claws, too.
I mean, we can keep it an 8 if everybody.
I'm saying
I like the 8.
Leave it at 8. Then we leave it at 8. Defense of 4.
For me, it's more of its size. It's what kills its defense. It's
Okay.
kind of... I
Also-
think we gave Ningen a low defense as well, but I'm not sure. And it was purely because of its size, because it's just a bigger target to hit now.
Me too. It's as far as like one wing goes out and it's pretty crippled for the whole rest of the fight. So I think that's why its defense is pretty low.
Then we keep it low at a 4. Now here was the big talking point of the episode when we did it. This is the only thing I can truly recall because it was me versus you two, and it made me very mad.
It was mobility. Wasn't
Talking about mobility.
it? Okay.
Right now, it's at a mobility of 7, which I think is ludicrous. It needs to be higher. And you guys brought up the fact, some bullshit about, I can't make quick turns or something.
Well, yeah.
We said as soon as you scale up, it makes it harder. Maneuverability gets
Yeah,
harder.
it's like how we put it was more of how it's an airplane. Airplanes can't, when it's bigger.
Yeah,
like
it can't turn as sharp.
It can't turn like that.
I get that. But it still outmaneuvers and outspeeds almost anything else in its class.
What's just
Oh my god, is this
I'm
really
thinking-
about to become a 3v1? I thought this would be the time when I bring it back finally.
go. We thought he could bring a friend in.
the scaling factor plays into it, though. If you think about watch a little bird and a big bird fly, it is that exactly. Little birds, you can't even, they can turn so fast you don't see it. Big birds, you're like, he's planning it out.
It's like how you see an eagle, it glides pretty fast, but a hummingbird literally says gone.
Yeah, like
And that's how we see it.
I know. I am hiding my discontempt right now.
Big birds are like the smooth pimp, just planning and strutting. And then you got the little birds that are just little freaking spazoids.
Now, when it dives down, that's why it has that high of mobility. Because when it dives down, it's going.
yeah, the swoop is pretty quick. How high do you want to make? You want to make
And
it
I
like
mean,
a 10 or something.
How
like
fast could
fell.
it flap those wings?
That's what he did
I mean,
want to make it.
how
I
fast
know.
could it flap those big ass honking wings?
I wasn't going to go 10. Alright?
Oh, you for sure wanted to bring up a 10.
Initially, I probably wanted to go
You
10.
did.
But I've come around. I think 8.
Okay, what's your... We've been bringing our arguments to deflect you. Why are we
sheer
bringing it up
speed.
to
This
an
thing's
8?
got to be going extremely fast. And yes,
Why?
while it can't turn like that, because it's a giant bird, it's covering a larger distance when it flies. And also there's a lot of
Speed
force.
only has a part of mobility. Mobility
True.
means it has to be agile as well. And that's why the turning turned it down so much. From
Exactly.
I don't have a retort for that.
I think that's why we did
statement.
7.
Now, what would like the beak and claw speed, use of that, like in attack mode, what would that play into it?
I think we throw that more so into power. Like
Yeah.
the fact that it has quick strikes means it's more powerful.
Whatever, you fucking keep it the same.
This guy thought he was like, oh, recap, we're going to bring it
I
up.
thought Justin would be on my side. I'm like, we're going to destroy these
Turns
I had-
out Justin's
I
intelligent.
had to use like physics. I had to like in physics in my head. I just can't picture try and picture it for real happening. I'm like, there's no way he's moving that fast. It just
Exactly. That's why we're keeping it at 7. Get rid of that recap.
Fuck you.
It's stuck like that forever.
Until I go back and edit it after this episode, and we never go back.
And if you're trying to keep the multi-dimensional shit out of it, then yeah, he's got this.
Alright.
HP of 5, whatever. I don't care anymore. My night's been ruined.
His one holdout. Soul-crushing blow.
The Thunderbird is sitting at an HP of 5. What are we thinking? Now, usually my argument for HP is size and kind of body structure, but it's also a bird, and they go down really easy.
I think that was the main point of why it's a 5, because when you take this thing's wings out, it's gone. It can't survive.
Yeah, it gets stabbed quite a few times, and it's going down within the first couple of strikes. So.
I would have said, with the size of it, maybe a 6, thinking about it, but now if it gets down, it's done. The wings are gone.
Yeah, it might have been a 6 too, and then, I mean, we did bring up hollow bones earlier, so it's easier crushing force against that.
Any other thoughts, Justin? Or
Not really, no.
then he'll stay in an HP of 5. In stealth of 3 is our final stat to cover, which...
That had to do with size. I know it did.
That had to do with size in the coming storms thing. It's like, this thing's not really hiding from anyone.
No.
It was more, I think we said it was more of an apex predator that wants to be known that's here.
Yeah. And then I think you also brought up, I think this is when whales got brought up, because you're like, if you see something carrying a whale, there's no way you don't see that.
I mean, that's just true. Unless it's like going to an uncharted island in the middle of the ocean.
Exactly.
But I think it's unanimous that it stays at stealth of 3. And we are about 30 minutes in, and we've covered 1.
3 more.
Now, do you think the intelligent... What was the outcome of this fight?
The...
Jersey Devil one, I think.
Pretty sure
And it
Jersey
was
Devil
more-
took the win, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It was, wasn't it the one where we were like, oh yeah, it's demonic lightning. It has
Oh,
fucking
that
fire.
one was dope to think about. This
Oh, yeah.
this fight was definitely one of us sick to think
One
about.
of our
but-
more cinematic fights.
Yeah.
But I think what came to was that Jersey Devil went into the forest, and then Thunderbird tried to put like fire onto it by doing all this thunderstorm stuff. But in the end, Jersey Devil still won because of that stealth that killed it.
All right. I mean, maybe the intelligence of 7 comes in to play here now, but I still think the outcome wouldn't change.
Yeah, it would be the same.
Now let's move on to Skunk Ape versus Yeti. Now, we'll talk about the Skunk Ape. Little recap. Florida Bigfoot smells really bad, and he's tall and more of a lanky Bigfoot.
He's basically an orangutan.
He is an orangutan, but, we're going to keep the imagination alive here. Characteristics: long red fur, slim body, abilities, water movement, and super stank. Any changes that are retorts here? All right.
Water movement was just because it's swampy, right? And we know that
Yeah,
moves
he
pretty
can move
quick.
really
Through
well.
swamps and wading through water.
Oh,
Yeah.
So let's hop into some stats. Intelligence of 4.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Power of 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're just fucking gunning through these.
Well, I think
pretty
this
cut and dry.
Those ones
This
are
is-
right on the money.
this is pretty straightforward, yeah.
Defense of 8, which we justified because of having the longer, thicker fur,
And this
that it would provide
and the
more than
stank.
average.
and the stench, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Mobility of 8, which is where the water movement comes into effect here.
We're all pretty unanimous there.
HP of 6.
Yeah, I think we were trying to make it 7, and then we lowered it because of the super sting, and that could cause problems for his health. That's why it's a 6.
I also think because he's slimmer than Bigfoot, we had to reduce
Yeah.
it.
Fair enough. I don't have any arguments with any of these ones.
No, nothing. Stealth 5.
The humanoid ones are like easier to boil down.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
mean you can draw a lot more from just humans, and
Just because
No, he
your
does.
whole life you've grown up seeing the way they move and what they can do.
Exactly.
and then we'll just say it's stealth of 5, but I don't think anybody has a problem with that here.
No.
Now we'll move on to the Yeti, the abominable snowman. Characteristics: 200 to 400 pounds, 6 feet. Abilities: cold nullification.
Yo, where's the white fur?
It doesn't have white
Doesn't
fur.
have white
No,
fur.
He has white fur. Everyone says he has white fur, so therefore he has to have white fur.
He doesn't have white fur. This was a very long talking point
Yeah.
in the episode.
Common mistake, when you see the Yeti in like media, white fur and all that. If you do try to explain it, I imagine it's just snowfall coming down on his regular fur.
Well, and even if it was white, wouldn't it be like a polar bear whose fur isn't actually white? It's clear.
Yeah, it's clear.
Maybe.
That's the only possibility I could lean with if somebody tried to argue any kind of white fur. But
Shenanigans. Yeah, none of that.
They're not even coming in the game very hot. Do some research. We'll gun through these ones. Intelligence of 6. I think we justified this one because it's got a more harsh environment, so I had to learn better survival skills. Power of 9.
It's cousin of Bigfoot anyway, so it's gonna be pretty strong.
These ones were pretty easy because they were all just kind of like, oh yeah, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And then you can kick it off, whatever ones.
Defense of 7.
I think this is also harsh environment. I think most of this comes down to the fact that it's living, such a high, such a high altitude and stuff like that.
Mobility of 5.
Yeah, just because of where it is, and it can't really move anywhere. I'm pretty sure that's why we had it that low.
Mm-hmm.
Did we say anything about how fast it can move through snow?
I think that's why its mobility is kind of lower. It doesn't have any real specialty to moving through snow. It's kind of just trudging along to it.
Yeah, it was more like, it just doesn't get affected by it so much, so it doesn't really need to.
Yeah, it's more of
move
adapted to it, but yeah, it's nothing like it's just gliding over the snow.
True.
It's kind of just if you're playing in the snow and you're just taking your big steps throughout the whole thing. Any kind of thing there, Justin?
No, not really. Maybe a 6, but it's all environmental stuff. So you wouldn't. You're trying to place it in a different environment than it's used to. No, I think leave it at that.
HP of 9. Alright. Stealth of 5. And I know we dropped this one a little lower because it doesn't have the ability to really blend in with its sort of environment unless it's trying to be like a rock.
Yeah.
Alright. No changes to the Skunk Ape versus the Yeti. Who came out on top in this one?
The Yeti.
The Yeti.
Alright.
Because it kind of just mustered the strength to go through the stink and then basically bodied that one.
Didn't they fight with like kind of weapons at some
I was
point
gonna
in
say,
the
I'm pretty
episode?
sure he picked up a tree and just smacked the skunk ape
Yeah,
with it.
he started trying to throw shit at Skunk Ape to get the range off, and that was pretty much it.
Now we'll hop over to some more recent episodes that we've covered.
That's true, because in between the skunk ape and this next one, we had the special the month.
Special month. We had 1,000 download little celebration thank you episode. Then we covered some SCPs, and then we hopped back. And I think when we did all that, there was one of our 3-week gaps in between episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And since we're there, do we want to talk about the SCPs at all? I know it's iffy if we talk about the special episodes on here.
Last time we brought up...
I know we brought in Rake. We talked about the Rake last time we did a mashup, just because he was close to being a cryptid.
This one I think are a little further removed, so I don't think we should bring that in.
They have a lot more supernatural powers compared to the other ones. I mean, they literally have pocket dimensions.
Yeah, one's literally a Walmart.
Yeah.
Alright, then let's hop into Skinwalker versus Enfield Horror. We'll cover the Skinwalker first. Characteristics: strange eyes, ability, shapeshifting, mind invasion, dark aura, slight corruption, magic. And I know Justin had brought up a very strong argument there about it changing into other cryptids. So that could really affect the stats here. So let's hop into Intelligence of 9.
Did we say that? Did we give it to where it had to have the knowledge of it?
How do you
That it
mean?
had to see how it acted and everything?
I don't think we brought that up, no.
I know. We for sure brought up prior knowledge. We said, does it have any prior knowledge of what it's turning into?
I think what Roger meant is when it's out hunting the creature and it observes how it acts before it kills it.
Yeah, and so it knows how to act like and how to use its strengths.
But no, I don't think we talked about that. But I still think it would stay at a 9.
Yeah.
Any other intelligence ones before we hop into a possible power change here?
I don't think so on the intelligence, no.
Now we're hopping over to a power of 9. We had brought up Bison, but if we take into effect cryptid changes, it could turn into a Bigfoot and have a power of 10.
That's where the whole cryptid thing is. It has to have if it has to have the knowledge of it, how to turn into it and everything, it might affect if it can turn into a cryptid.
That's true. Does it know what a Bigfoot is? That's the real question here.
I will say, Bigfoot being one of the most common cryptids, I feel like it would.
But
And there's stories of Bigfoot dating back to Native Americans.
But where do we draw the line? As far as, well, he's a well-known cryptid, so is the Jersey Devil.
And so
But
is the
he's
Michigan
also in a
Dogman.
different area of the
Another
world.
thing with Bigfoot is that this thing's being seen all throughout the country, as to where a lot of these are just one spot. So I think we can justify giving it Bigfoot.
I think it's fine giving it Bigfoot, but the thing is where do we draw the line for it? Because you can see other ones around.
Yeah, if he's over in New Jersey,
If it's over in Michigan,
I
Goatman
think
kind of roams around anywhere, so...
I think it's more of the ones that are just kind of roaming around the entire country
then
instead of ones that are in just set areas.
doesn't know about the Chupacabra, because that thing travels fast.
Yeah, but that's also New Mexico, correct?
Well, that's just, it could have been anywhere in South America or Mexico.
Skinwalkers don't really go away from their more...
I thought you were going to say go to Mexico.
No, I mean, they could take a quick vacation, but they're most commonly up in the colder environments up
Yeah, but
near the top of
Chupacabra
the
also
state,
did
country.
move, if you want to talk about it, Chupacabra did move up into the United States.
I don't want to talk about it because that's not the real Chupacabra. That is
How do you
a...
How do you know?
It's a
one
coyote
could've-
with mange.
The real one could
They
have.
had cases in America. It wasn't just that coyote spotting.
Are you talking about the original one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It had the
I
cases went from Mexico and then they went into more of like Texas and lower South California.
Yeah. I really don't think the Skinwalker is going to go all the way down the country to these hotter environments. It just doesn't thrive there in that kind of environment. It's more of that, like, bottom of Canada, top of United States kind of home. Like,
North
Okay,
America.
well,
North America, thank
North
you.
America.
if that is the case, then it should be near Michigan.
That's true. It would know somewhere near Michigan. It would also know the Yeti. Because that thing's living up on cold mountains. He said it lives in colder
The
mountains.
Yeti's in...
Emily,
Oh,
Asia.
Himalayas. Well, I mean, this thing could be in the Himalayas too. Who says he's
No,
not in
I
Asia?
don't think it. He took a boat over to
and then if we're gonna
Asia.
go there, the Wendigos in that area too.
Yeah, but there's not much you would gain from the Wendigo. They're kind of like...
Frost, like ice
Yeah.
powers, yeah?
No,
Frost
I don't know if you'd be able to mimic the powers.
Yeah, like supernatural power-wise, I don't know if it would mimic it.
Yeah, because then that's a whole different thing. Whereas Bigfoot's more
But he does have
Natural
cold walking and stuff like
origins.
that. The ability to move fast on that type of terrain.
But then that comes back to, is that more of a supernatural ability or just
I
an
thought we just-
adapted ability?
This thing
I thought we
is a
just gave it to
shaman as well, so it does have a little bit of magic.
Yeah, the darker magics. All I'm saying is, I think if it does take from cryptids, it's going to be more common cryptids that are seen, and also ones that just inhabit the colder environment that this one shares with them. And so that's why I think we could give it Bigfoot.
Should we give it Michigan Dogman as well?
Should we give it Goatman?
Goatman's not really in that region.
Well, I mean, he travels all over the place, but
I forget where is that bridge at?
I thought it was on the East Coast.
There's a Goatman bridge, and that's where it's spotted around. But he can't travel around.
I think when it comes to Dogman, does Dogman have a set location?
Michigan.
Michigan?
Yeah.
Wendigo spotted in Wisconsin, by the way.
I still don't think it would turn into a Wendigo just because of how close they are already. I mean, we could give it to him, but I think then it just comes back to, I think he'd take more of a Bigfoot because Bigfoot's just got the higher stats wise. I don't really see. The
Well,
only thing I could see him really taking from Dogman would be
their
sort of like
mobility.
a mobility, or I was thinking kind of like maybe using the look to act as a pseudo pack leader.
Well,
Yeah,
I know we
thinking-
don't bring in extras, but thinking of like a real world aspect to it.
I'm just thinking individual stat wise because we said this guy optimizes his stats.
That and probably also its stealth too.
True.
Well, it's already got a stealth of 10.
That's
I mean, I would be fine giving it Dogman. I'm just on the fence as to how common Dogman is throughout Michigan. Is it just one? Is it multiple? Are they traveling a little bit farther out of Michigan?
well, they've had like multiple sightings in different areas of Michigan, so I'm pretty sure they're just moving around Michigan. It's like their whole territory. You see it at the farms. You see it at the security guards place.
Yeah, the guy was driving
Yeah,
along
he's
the
driving
forested
By
road.
the fucking road.
I could justify giving a dog man, but that's just me at the same time. What about you, skeptic?
I mean, it also, my thing is giving it Bigfoot gives it every single cryptid we haven't talked about yet. That could be within that category of it's seen it.
So you're on the boat, no cryptids.
I think it's easier to leave the cryptids out. That way there's nothing that we miss.
That, and then so no one's like, well, it could turn into this cryptid that's in this area.
Yeah.
Well, it won't matter if they say that because we're never going to talk about this again after today.
Well,
I don't know.
At least I
I'm
hope
leaning
not.
towards no, just
Okay.
because that something in there. I mean, he's already using magical powers, shamanism, whatnot. It just seems to me he'd be picking more of earthly creatures to turn into to begin with. Not to say Bigfoot's not earthly creature, but
Yeah,
there's more ambiguity
more
to
of a
him.
natural kind of
Yeah,
animal.
in his just natural everyday environment, things they hunt.
And I imagine it'd be a lot easier when it comes to like hunting these other animals to draw in just a normal animal, as to where it would seemingly be harder to draw in a Bigfoot since they have their own kind of communication and seemingly family packs.
especially if it's always running from you and you can't get a good glimpse at it ever.
Something you hadn't been able to kill yourself and sit down with and be like, oh, something you can't just throw a coat on of.
Yeah.
You don't have a Bigfoot jacket.
Fair enough. I'd kill for one of those. Alright, so we're not going to take cryptids into factor here. Can we think of any other animal that it would utilize to get to a power of 10? Because I don't think we're going to be dropping any stats that are affected by him picking animals just because he's going for the highest animal he can.
I mean, you probably could go more of like an orca or a shark, but that's that's literally water based, so it can't really do that. But
Yeah.
orcas and sharks and everything, they are pretty fucking powerful.
Definitely. But yeah, I don't think...
You just bust that out in the middle of the desert, though, and you're fucked. Come over here.
Yeah, shark was a good idea when I was in the air, not so much when I'm flopping on the ground. Yeah.
Alright, then sticking with bison for power of 9.
I mean, because all those guys are pretty equivalent, like a bison or an elk or a moose. They're solid motherfuckers. And if you've seen any of those in person,
Yeah, no, that was our big point of contention when it was coming through. It's like, okay, there's this guy who's got a high power, but this guy also has a high one. So then I think it more came down to who would have like the better extra abilities to go along with their power.
Yeah.
All right, let's hop down to defensive 8, and we chose the brown bear for it to utilize, which I still think is a pretty solid choice.
Yeah.
Then let's hop down to mobility of 7 with a cougar. I still can't think of anything that would go any faster than that.
more agile. No.
They're,
Not unless it went
panthers
for...
are kind of like the same thing. They could
Keep in mind it's North American territories, so.
well, yeah, you can find panthers in
Mm-hmm.
North
Yeah.
American territories.
But we also brought up panthers, didn't we?
And
Possibly.
I think we just put cougars in there, but panthers are a lot different than.
We said something about large cats, and then we chose cougar just because it was most common. But
It's the most common, but in speed wise, I'm pretty sure panthers are even faster. And so if it is for mobility, I think it would more go for that.
What number would you give the panther for mobility?
It's 7.
Cougar's sitting in...
I'd maybe go an 8, but I don't know if it'd change it too much.
Any of those big cats are pushing an 8.
Yeah, no. The only thing I could think to really push it any higher would be possibly like an avian creature, some kind of bird to bump it up, but I'm not too sure.
they're both pretty much equal. Cougar can get up to 50, and jaguars can get up to 50. So, and that'd be the biggest panther you're gonna find.
So then the only way to bump it up would be just more agility-wise, which would be more agile.
But then again, they are both big cats, so how much they differentiate, you know?
Typically, panthers are bigger than cougars, because cougars are about like bobcat size, whereas panthers are more towards like
Like a lion or something like that.
So then it would almost come down to cougar being the correct choice, being it's a smaller creature and be able to get around, be more agile. with its size.
Yeah, you're splitting hairs like at that point between any of those big cats as far as like their speed and.
Yeah, and I think that's where we got to, is really just picking the exact proper one, but there were just such subtle differences that it wouldn't come into play as much. Mm-hmm. So we're going to keep it cougar?
Yeah, that's fine.
Then we have HP of 7 with the bison, which I think, once again, pretty solid. Nothing else really just comes to mind being big and bulky.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we ended off with a stealth of 10. And I think this came down to the shape-shifting aspect.
It was mostly, how do you know if it even is?
Yeah, it pretty much only is seen when it wants to be seen.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's going for, like, it can utilize one of the best stealth tactics, hidden in plain sight. Mm-hmm. You could be looking at a herd of things. 1 could be a skinwalker. 10 could be a skinwalker. There's no real way to know.
You could be in the middle of the forest, and that one deer that's walking by could be a skinwalker.
It could just be a rabbit, and you're looking for where the fucking cougar went, but it's really just the rabbit that's just hopping right in front of you.
And the only way, because listening to a bunch of YouTube videos and stuff talking about stories like this, really the only way to differentiate it is when it's given up on hunting the prey, and it'll typically stand on the hind legs afterwards and dash off. And that's really the only way you can nail it down.
And that's more of a reveal.
Yeah, it's like,
that's
well,
more like,
I've given
I was
up,
behind this the whole time, you know?
So I think we're fine with the stealth for 10.
Yeah.
Now we'll move on to the Enfield horror. One of the, I would imagine, smaller cases we've covered, but I like the Enfield horror a lot. So we have characteristics: 3 legs, like a tripod, small T-Rex-like arms, 200 pounds, 4 feet tall, no abilities.
Okay, one comment on this one though. With the 3 legs, that could lead into a tail. 2 legs and a tail, kangaroo style is the only thing to that as far as
I think
trying to battle the 3-legged concept. But I'd rather it be 3 legs.
I think it was in the front of it. It was 2 legs, and then there's one in the front to do it. That's why everyone.
The images of it are really
weird. And I know a really short guy named Tripod, but we won't go into that story. And I mean, would you?
Or maybe it was in the back to launch it out. Because it didn't jump pretty high.
I think it looks like you're seeing both, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this one right here, and it's got, like you said, the one that's more like a tail. But then you look at this rendition, and then it's got the 3 legs, one in the back.
I mean, those 3 are all just in line. Like, yeah. This was the one that we went off of for the episode, right?
I can't even see it that well.
Yeah, neither can I.
Yeah, that one kind of makes it look like it's in one in the front. I mean, either way, I don't.
From listening to the initial story, it does seem like it uses the 3 legs, and one's not a tail.
Yeah, because it was hopping around, right? Mm-hmm. When it came back that second time, it was like...
That's why I look at that picture and I see how it's using that one leg kind of
this one?
hop.
Yeah, it's almost like it's using it to just propel itself forward. Because I believe reading it and going through the story, there's no like saying that it runs. It just launches itself, which would lead to the 3rd leg being a launch as to where the 2 are for landing.
And they got to everywhere pretty fast too. And that's why we were like, it has to have 3 legs because all the sightings were in like that one, those like couple hours.
Yeah, and then in that small town.
Well, and I read somewhere in one of them that it went like 200 feet in 3 steps or some shit.
Yeah, that was like one of its biggest feats was that alone. That's why it has really good mobility. But we'll get to that. Let's start with intelligence. He's sitting at a 6 right now. I can't remember the argument for that.
I'm pretty sure you brought up the argument for that, but
Yeah. I don't know. Now I can't even think of a way to justify having an intelligence higher than your base.
Yeah, I almost want to drop it back down to a 5. It might have been the fact that it knew to leave when the parents came, and then...
That's what it was, because I was just running through the stories, like, because there's the first initial sighting with the kid, and he rips up the shoes, so I didn't see anything there. There's the one where he gets seen on the train, nothing there, and then you go back, or the train tracks, like you said, and then you go to the story where he attacks the house, disappears when the parents get there, then he comes back after the parents are inside, which, that's really the only kind of story where you can derive any kind of intelligence from.
Well, in any of these crazy wacky ass ones, like even like Frogman and all that stuff, they're so bizarre that obviously there would be more sightings if they weren't somewhat intelligent, because they just be like, what? Do?
Yeah.
I mean, you just picture them walking around, do. Some of them
The
aren't
Frogman.
scary. They're just more like, wow, actually, that one needs to exist.
Yeah, well, this one's almost like it just came out of a void and then left through a void because it's literally never appeared since.
There is a story I was reading that goes back a few hundred years of another similar creature being sighted. I believe it was in New England, somewhere way far off from where this story takes place, but similar creature, 3 legs, yada yada yada. But I mean, there was like one account in that story, so I just kind of threw it out the window.
I think it also came back somewhere in 2000. I don't know when. It might have been a recent one too, like 2019 to 20 or something like that. But I don't know when.
The Unfield Horror making his return. But yeah, I don't know. I almost want to drop it down to a 5. Only because using that one story to justify it just almost isn't enough for me to want to bump it too high.
Not enough
Yeah.
reference material.
No, yeah.
I don't think it's full point worth.
Then would we be alright dropping it to a 5?
I'm down with a 5.
Sorry, buddy, but you're a little dummy dumb. Now we have a power of 8.
Based on 3-leg leaping skill.
Pretty much.
200 pounds.
Yeah, that's...
It was.
Which I think is justified, and then it's got the little arms, albeit pretty much useless. I believe it does use the arms in the story to tear up the shoes, but at the same time, kids wearing like some Skechers, you know.
Yeah, not the
It's
most
like-
durable
I
shoe.
mean, you've seen my work shoes. They're Skechers, and
Yeah.
I've only had them for like 6 months.
Mine are too, but they're more boots.
I need to get myself a pair of those because I'm just flying through work shoes.
Anyway, back
But
to the Enfield Horror.
back to power.
Yeah.
I think the 8's pretty justified.
I think the 8's probably pretty good.
Power came more from its legs, anyways, just because it's launching itself. It's 200 pounds, and so if it's launching itself like that, the legs are just going to build muscle
Yeah.
pretty easily.
Alright, then let's hop it down to defense, which is also an 8.
And the big feat for this one was that it took a shotgun blast to the face and
It did.
was barely stunned. Yeah.
Yep. I believe that was the one on the train tracks, where the dude shot it and it just kept going on its merry way. No
Yeah.
seemingly any damage done. I believe all it did was maybe let out a little holler,
Yeah,
but it just kept trucking through.
pretty sure it screeched.
So I mean, it comes back to this is the only feat we have for it to justify this stat.
Yeah.
But I mean, we can't really go, and I think as far as feat goes per stat, this is more impressive of a feat than just walking away from the door and coming back. But I also wouldn't be opposed to dropping it down to a 7.
I don't know, taking a shotgun blast is pretty...
Yeah. If you're taking that into account, I think it needs to stay at an 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a shotgun blast, and especially straight in the face, that's almost as powerful as like a fucking 50 cal. Not as powerful, obviously, because 50 cals can literally tear off limbs, but shotguns you can't.
Yeah, especially at a close range, too. I mean,
All right.
I think we're fine with an 8.
Then we'll keep it an 8. Mobility is also sitting at an 8.
This one, I don't know.
We kept it because it was able to like run at like 200 feet
Doing
in
its
30
hopping.
seconds. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure is what it was.
And to cover that much distance in just such a short span of time is an amazing feat, in my opinion.
I think that's another one with the limited information. You kind of got to stick with and base it off what you got. Because
Yeah.
if you had description of it being all wobbly around or stumbling around outside the house or some shit, then you'd be like, maybe he's not as graceful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was also, I believe, the leaving with the parents and then came back. I think that was also a feat we put into mobility, just because it was like within the span of like a minute or two.
It was also because these encounters were all within the same night, pretty much.
Then we're going to keep a mobility of 8. Push it up, lower it. Alright, cool. We'll stick with mobility of 8. HP of 7. I'm pretty sure we justified this just because the shape of the body, its size, while it is smaller, it's got more of that. I could have swore we had a better picture last
I
time.
could have swore too. It looked like this one, but it was like facing forward a little bit.
But
It
it's
was
got
on
more
the
of the-
website, They showed us, I'm pretty sure.
Alright, well, Andrew, we'll look for that real quick. Maybe it was this one.
It was on the Cryptid Wiki, that's what it was.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, right there.
So yeah, it has like this same picture, but it's a lot better quality.
It's a lot brighter, too.
Yeah, if it's like that, then it's just a...
It's
kind of just like a tank.
It's just built, looks seemingly to take attacks. Or
With 200 pounds behind it and it being more of like just the bulk of it, it's
a
kind of like
projectile.
yeah.
Could knock anything over, and then once it gets it knocked over...
Yeah.
And even with the legs, just the muscle mass on them has to provide good defense for the limbs as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
Not
if
to
it can take
mention
a
if it-
gunshot to that face, those limbs gotta be pretty
Yeah.
durable as well.
I mean, they got to be structurally sound, just the bone structure as well, if it has any.
Is this supposed to be the tail or a leg?
I think that's the third leg in that rendition.
The
because
third leg must be
one of the arms was
shorter.
right there.
There's just not a solid rendition, but we'll work with it. So keeping it HP is 7, stealth of 5, and I think we only gave it such a high stealth. I mean, there could be a couple factors here. It comes into one short span of time, never seen again, and it isn't because it seemingly died. It just left the town. There's also the fact that with the story of the family coming home, it goes away. The parents do not see it at all until it comes back.
And so you're giving it, it's got what?
It's
as
only
stand?
got 5 right now, which after saying this, I'd almost want to bump it up a little higher.
I think we gave it a 5 just because it seemed like it was just a thing that wanted to scare people and terrify them, and so it wanted to be seen. And so it wasn't really, oh yeah, I want to be stealthy, I want to scare everyone and be the aggressor.
Like I said, it seems like it just popped out of a void for one mission, and that mission was to terrify these people and then leave.
And then disappear. Yeah, with that, I mean, you could then take out of account that it just disappeared right after that. And then we're only left with the disappearing house feet. So then I could see the 5 being justified.
I think it's 5 more so on the fact that we don't have anything to make it faster. Like, there's nothing that's going to
Stealthier.
prove... Yeah, or stealthier. There's nothing to prove that it's any stealthier than that.
Any last comments before we close this one?
No.
Okay. Then we end it with the stealth of 5. I will say, looking back at the fight, I believe the Skinwalker won?
Yeah.
What if Skinwalker being a little more... Well, I guess it would change. I don't think we brought up the fact that this thing could just launch itself into the Skinwalker.
We did.
We did.
We did?
Yeah.
Never mind then.
We also
It
said
was
that it would
more
either
of-
dodge or take the hit.
It's
But-
more of the Skinwalker's intelligence and its stealth and everything played probably the biggest fucking factor into that fight.
Alright, then no changes with that fight either. And then we end up at our most recent episode. Well, our most recent of these fights. We have the Washuge versus the Makara. Now, Washuge, quick recap. Another one of those kind of Skinwalker, Wendigo, Native American creatures. Although this one is different. It's got ice armor, can launch ice projectiles. We have characteristics: 8 feet tall, long arms, deer skull for a head. Abilities: ice armor, ice projectiles, and semi-hypnotism.
Which was the thing that we said it would take a long time, but it would still be a form of hypnotism.
Any changes we want to bring up there? Hopping down, we have stats: intelligence of 10.
Does anyone remember the argument behind that one?
Not at all. I was hoping
I
one of you...
think it was that the backstory of this one, it didn't change it as a human at all. It was kind of a human, was it greed for this one?
This one was
No.
actually, it becomes too powerful.
It becomes too perfect, that's what it was. It was more of that it wants to be the strongest, it wants to be
Yeah,
the
the
smartest.
transformations for this one is weird because I know it's beef with, or any kind of meat with fly eggs if you eat it, flash from a camera, and there's another weird one.
Any modern music, stringed instruments and
Yep.
skinned instruments. So you got
Yeah.
guitar and drums, or bass and drums, and
Yeah.
so
Sorry,
rock and roll.
suckers.
That one was strange. But the Native American, the behind it was you try to attain, or not that you try to attain.
away from the native culture.
Yeah,
what it
you
is.
became. Yeah, it's basically like you stop being this humble and you go a little bit further into the I want to be more powerful, I want more money, greed, and all that stuff. Yeah.
But bringing it back to the intelligence, I do remember at least my argument. So Devrin got me onto another podcast. I can't recall what it's called, but it's basically this guy that just tells creepy stories. And he got in contact with a cryptid hunter. And
That's right.
the cryptid hunter brought up a story of a Washuge and how he was tracking it, but the thing seemingly turned around, tracked his team, and killed the team. And then that's when they finally met. And the argument for the intelligence is that this thing has tracking capabilities, seemingly has some kind of tactical knowledge here as well.
It's able to foresee that someone's hunting it, and so instead of being the hunted, it becomes the hunter.
Yeah, and I believe in the second encounter for the Cryptid Hunter with the Wishuge, he was tracking it, and he could see that this thing was turning around to try and track him down and find him and get the more advantageous approach to the battle.
Yeah, and I think from our perspective too, it was just, I mean, this thing didn't really devolve when it becomes what it is.
It wasn't cursed with something that was bad. It didn't change anything from an experiment.
Yeah, so this thing is basically just a human that goes to the next level, you know?
Yeah, he classed up from human. So, intelligence 10.
Yeah.
Like based on outsmarting people tracking it, yeah, I would say.
Power of 9.
I don't know.
I think keeping it a power of 9, if you factor in the ice projectiles, that's where I think a lot of the power would come from. I don't know if we factored ice projectiles into its power. We did.
We for sure, I know
Then-
you probably brought it up for
We
sure.
did, and then we also did it because it's more of like a supernatural thing, so it gained the power from that.
Yeah. And I believe one of the wordings for turning into it is quite literally you just become too strong.
Yeah.
And that's kind of jump starts the transformation of one of these, which would almost lead me to a power 10.
We also said that it's not like over up to Bigfoot level. I think we said that.
Strength wise, yeah. But if we take in ice projectiles,
I think that's what boosted up to a 9 from like an 8. Was the fact that it had projectiles.
okay, then I can probably sit comfy at the 9 then, keep it that way. Let's hop to defensive 9. Now I know initially we argued for 10, but we did bring it down to a 9 because this thing is
One weakness.
the fire is like the
Leave
big
it on a
weakness.
campfire overnight and melt it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But good luck with that.
Yeah. I do know in the Cryptid Hunter podcast they used like incinerary rounds, and that was like the big weakness in that story. You know, there's the campfire thing, and then seemingly just a lot of just high pressured flame.
Yeah,
And
we
that's why
also
we
said
kept
that.
it from the 10, just because it's not impenetrable.
Yeah, we also said that with enough force, it's viable to break.
So then we're comfortable keeping it at a 9. Mobility of 7. I think, at least from my point of view, the 7 comes around because while it's going and the Cryptid Hunter's tracking it, it's seemingly keeping at the same pace, both of them. So it's not going to be faster than a human.
Yeah.
Or at least not too much
And
faster.
it didn't have any special feat like the Wendigo or anything where it can walk faster in snow or anything. And so
Yeah.
that's what kind of boosts it up from being 7.
From being 7, it is 7.
Well, yeah, being higher than 7.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Any other changes or arguments towards a mobility change?
If anything, I want to make it a little bit lower just because it seems pretty large, but overall, I don't think that.
That's what I was thinking. I think maybe the size could hold back its speed.
Yeah, but the thing with size is that they also, with size, you can also take bigger strides and can walk faster. Run faster.
My whole thing is like, I don't know if it's enough to bring it down a point or anything like that.
All right, we'll stick with the mobility of 7, HP of 6.
Yeah,
I think 6 was more so that it was just like a slight step up from a human as far as endurance goes. It doesn't. Most of its abilities are the things that bring it up in the other stats, but nothing's raising its health to a higher degree.
All right, that was pretty solid. Keep HP of 6, and how about stealth of 5?
I'm gonna say yeah, because if somebody's tracking it and notices that it's starting to track them, well then it's not quite that stealthy.
Exactly. Yeah, it can be tracked.
So yeah, stealth of 5, just keep it the same. I mean,
It was, I think what we had is that since it was tracked and it was leaving footprints, it can't be that stealthy. Because if you were that stealthy, you'd know to try and reduce your tracks to be seen.
or at least change up the direction of them somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll leave it at stealth of 5. Now, moving on to the Makara, which is a Hindu mythological creature. It's the one that was chosen to be ridden by the Hindu gods. More of a kind of crocodile, weird amalgamation of a few creatures. And I'm just going to bring up a reference picture because I don't remember it too well.
Crocodile. Oh, what was that?
Yeah, if you read about it, there's all kinds of different combinations of amphibian
this is like
and
the
something
weird
else.
Dragon one.
If I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere about possible
This was the one that we used.
dugong misappropriation, which is
Yeah.
So we got our Makara reference picture. Now, characteristics: trunk, scales, tusks, abilities, nothing. Let's hop into stats. We have intelligence of 8. And I do want to preface, I think a lot of our stats, since they are high, we kind of justified it being sort of like a pseudo deity.
Yeah. Something
and also like a servant of gods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
They rode around on the thing and whatnot, so
It was supposedly like their preferred vehicle.
So intelligence wise.
I almost want to drop it to a 7, just because I don't think it's that high up. I think
It's
it was
still-
might have been a little.
It's still more of that's on the godly range, and so why it is something that's ridden by the gods, it's still ridden by the gods for a reason.
And there are renditions of the story where the Makara is itself a god. Or this godlike creature. So it kind of just depends where we want to take it from. Because there's no solid story that shows any signs of intelligence. So it is just this animal. But it's also a deity. Does seem to be able to maybe respect or acknowledge the gods. Because it doesn't just go outright and attack them when it sees them.
And I don't know how the gods write, if they lead it, or if they just say, oh yeah, go here, and then it goes. Because if it did that, then the
Yeah, this is the only kind of rendition there is. Just sitting on top of it. Same thing. But yeah, there's nothing that really states any kind of speech towards it. I mean, I could lean going down towards a 7, but I do definitely think it's sort of more of a higher intelligence creature. Nevertheless.
I'm saying that over baseline 5, I think 2 points over that's good enough. I don't know if the 8.
My big contributing factor is, whenever I think of the intelligence for these things, is there a form of communication between this creature and something else? You just don't really see it.
see, but I would, for me personally, okay, I'm just going with the image of them riding this thing, and then you go like, if I want to go with mythological, think like Pegasus, okay, that thing, what intelligence level would I give that? Then I think picture a guy just riding a horse. A lot of that communication is not verbal.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
physical, it's a
it's
squeeze with this leg, it's a
And
lean
that's
it.
why I want to know how it would be written. Because if the gods are just like, oh, sit on top, and then I'm not doing anything because I'm a god, and then you just go here. If it knows where to go, then that shows a sign of intelligence, of knowing where it is and where it has to go.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I think an 8's solid. If you take away the godly aspect towards it, I drop it down. But I think that godly aspect that it has, or at least its connection to the gods, bumps it up to the 8.
If they have some sort of
Yeah,
Some sort of bond with this creature.
bond, telepathic, pseudo-communication kind of skills. Fine with keeping it an
a glittery 8.
8. If we did half a point, different story, but
Yeah.
we keep it solid here. Whole numbers. Power of 10.
Can we really give this thing a power of 10?
Yeah, I listened to this one not too long ago. Is more of the physicality of it, the core body,
Yeah, the fact that it's
the
different
torso-based
animals.
creature.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like this thing has a tail that's obviously extremely powerful. It's very
It's got the
large creature.
tusks.
Yeah.
And even the trunk could be used.
It would basically be all muscle, like, once again, kind
Oh,
of
100%.
creature.
Especially traveling through the water. most
I
likely
think that was
utilizing
also-
its
yeah.
entire body to travel, not just like the limbs. So I think we can stick with the 10 here pretty easily.
Yeah.
If it was, I would say it could even almost possibly break into our next tier up.
I think
That
we
was-
tried to argue it.
You were arguing that on the
Yeah.
podcast.
I don't know if you or me brought that up, but one of us was like, "Hey, is this the next tier yet?" And we were
Yeah.
like, "I think we put it at a high 10, but not quite to the point where we'd give it a 6 on the next scale."
No. It just has that kind of power to it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll hop into a defensive 7 now. And I think some of this came from the scale aspect of the creature.
The fact that
And with
has
it
the scales,
being like its body, like its muscular figure of sorts, the scales would almost seem like they'd be tougher. But then it also comes back to the placement of the scales on the body. Or is it like Crocodile Man where belly's exposed? Or is it just full
And
scale?
you've got fish scales versus amphibian scales versus reptile scales.
Yeah. And this thing is just an amalgamation of so many things you can't nail down what kind of scales precisely would it be.
which is probably why it's 7 exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't drop it down at all. More of because and raise it because more of defense is probably high because of the scale, but the mobility is going to obviously play a part into defense as well.
I'd also say if it is as muscular as it is defense, that could play into defense as well.
I mean, if it's a war beast of God, so to speak, it's probably
Yeah.
pretty badass.
I'm almost leaning
Then
like
when
an-
we bump it up to an 8, even.
I'd feel okay bumping it up to an 8, yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I think a solid 7 is still good, but we can bump it up to an 8.
I just because it's the choice of the ride, like who's it the favorite of is why, and it's the choice of something to be somebody's ride is what makes me want to give it a bump. Not based on anything other than that. I think.
Yeah.
But somebody's like, I'm gonna ride this. That's why I like Cadillac. It can take the impact versus I'm not driving one of these. You know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Alright, then I think we can bump it up to an 8. I think that's been our first stat change in a minute, too.
Was it 3 cryptids ago we changed something?
Okay, let's talk mobility 9. I'm pretty sure we gave this thing a high mobility, mainly because it's a water creature, but it can also utilize the land as well, which, when we break it down, not counting the water season we did, which I try not to talk about too much, we broke that stuff down from water speed to land speed just because everything was a water creature, so we kind of needed the justification for different environments. But here, not everything's water, so it just factors into mobility as a whole.
What?
Are we sticking with 9?
I like 9. This
Oh,
thing.
I definitely don't want to drop it down, but I could see a possibility of it going to the 10.
I really don't see this thing dropping down at all because if it's staying in land or water most of the time, it has to have some pretty good speed once it gets to land because it has to use all this muscle. But once it gets to land, it's like wow, it's so much easier to move, and it's kind of like lifting gravity off your shoulders or something. You
I think
it's
as-
down, and then you're like, oh, time to take that off. Oh, now I can fucking haul ass.
Yeah, and like Justin was saying too, if it's a preferred vehicle, I mean, this thing's got to be
Yeah.
pretty goddamn
Fast.
fast.
Is it 10 fast? Because I feel it's kind of teetering there.
I think it's close. I definitely see a 9.5 if we did 0.5s. I can see why it would be
Honestly,
there.
I could see even more than that. I would see like a 9.7 or 9.8.
Yeah, like
That's
this
right.
thing's definitely like. I'm just thinking, is this a speeding bullet? Like, is this?
In the water, I could definitely see it being a speeding
Oh.
bullet.
Oh yeah.
My thing comes down to the fact of how fast is it on land and maneuvering wise, what's it looking like? Because the tail almost becomes a hindrance on land.
It
Yeah.
won't be able to maneuver too well on land. Speed wise, I think it would be good because now it can just use its legs and arms. So instead of using its entire body, it just has to use this land.
And seemingly being a water-based creature, I would also come to the conclusion that it's not as well versed to land-based environments.
It's also a bigger creature, so it can't go into narrow areas and stuff like that.
So I think we just re-justified the 9.
I think that went full circle.
We needed the clarification, but if we did do points, I still think it'd be
Oh, it would be pretty high up there.
right there.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about some HP. Sitting in an HP of 7. I think it's pretty solid. Maybe could go up a point.
Yeah, I was gonna say if anything, it would go to 8.
Yeah, I don't know. It's another hard one to gauge.
I don't know if I have a strong enough argument for that.
Exactly.
I can't think of any arguments for that, and that's why I kind of just want to keep it where it is.
Yeah.
The only
I
thing
think
you
a
can use
7.
for that argument is, oh yeah, it's chosen by gods. But
Yeah, but I mean,
use that one.
we've already used that quite a bit, and it's not like gods choose a ride just because of like how long it'll last. It's like, oh, this is just the best thing for what I'm using now,
Alright, then we'll comfortably stick to a 7. And now, rounding it up, stealth of 6.
I'm going to say
I don't
definitely not higher.
No.
If somebody's riding around on you, that's not necessarily...
it's also kind of like a big dragon of sorts, so...
And isn't it? I mean, some of it's also, aside from being ridden around, aren't there like guardians at temples and things like that? So they're more there for non-stealth. They're like, here I am, motherfucker.
Yeah. They have the more intimidation factor to them. I also don't think it'd be very stealthy on land, like, at all.
No.
I
So
think
you'd
most
have
of
to
it's-
just not factor that in at all if you wanted to give it good stealth.
I think the stealth was mostly the fact that it is in water. If anything, it's going to be facings on land. It's like, if it goes deep enough, you can't even see it.
Then we'll stick with the 6. With the stat change, do you think it would affect the fight at all? Because I know the Washuge 1 almost wholly based on the fact of its projectiles.
If it had that one more point of ability, maybe, but probably not.
I know it was a really close fight, so I think that the point might have made a difference.
If it was able to dodge more and maneuver more, it might have, but...
Because if projectiles is the thing that's making the other one win, this thing getting in close enough more times, out of 10,
It's
or
Yeah,
also-
closing the gap.
It's also because it was out of its more, like, usual habitat. It had to be on land. The fight.
we said that
I'm
every
pretty
time
sure
it was
when
in the water, it won.
The environment we used was more of like a wooded area, so
on the
the
coast.
size comes into play. It's going to be hard to maneuver through there because the Washuge more than likely is going to be using it as cover.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to just keep the fight how it is. And do we want to talk about our cryptid crate battle? Or should we just...
That wasn't technically part of the season, so...
Alright. Then we can just not touch that one.
That one's, go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah,
That's what
it was our
saying.
last episode.
Yeah.
And we should have probably said this at the beginning. If this is your first time listening to the show, you might want to go back about 4 episodes because we've just spoiled
like 6.
everything.
Yeah, you got to go back more than 4 if you're talking the beginning of the rounds.
That's
because
right.
There are episodes in
7
between.
episodes now? Yeah, you gotta go.
Yeah, because we had 3 bonus ones this season around. If you're first time listening, hop over, listen to Thunderbird versus
Jersey Devil, and then go on from
continue from there. You can skip our specials. I recommend them. They're pretty fun. But
there. I mean, we can also shout out the fact that if you want a sticker, you can email us as well. We have a bunch of stickers still.
oh yeah, I forgot about that. We do have a bunch of Cryptid versus Cryptid stickers. And then we should be hopping into our what if fights now.
Because it was free for all after that, right? Yeah, so what
Yeah.
if fights is any mashups that you or any of us want to see.
So we got our what if fights for our 3rd chapter of this episode. Anybody got some coming right off the tongue?
I think that the Jersey Devil versus anything else humanoid would be cool, but
Jersey Devil versus Skinwalker was one that was like
that
a
would be
big
sick,
one we
yeah.
want to talk about.
I believe one of the very first people to email into the show, they wanted Skinwalker versus Jersey
And
Devil.
that's why you saved it. You were like, yeah, we need to save these 2.
Yeah, we really pushed that one way the far down because that was just like our first few months of doing the show. Now we're coming up on a year and we're finally talking about this fight that has been wanting to be talked about. So let's talk about it.
It's almost like an episode within itself because this fight, it just, you have to really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors at play here. I think initially going into it, the big advantage the Jersey Devil is going to have going for it is its flight ability. I think that'll keep some distance.
I think that goes out the window as soon as this thing sees the Jersey Devil, because then it's got its own flight ability.
And also can probably turn into eagles and birds and all that.
If it does, strategically, yes, while it would be able to move to the air, it's going to be a lot weaker if it chooses one of those compared to the Jersey Devil. So I think that'd be a strategic misstep on the Skinwalker's guy.
Do you think it just stays to the ground where it knows it has the advantage?
Well, then it obviously turns into a Wushuge.
Yeah.
No. I think, yeah, it'd be... Honestly, thinking about it, it'd almost be a wash. Because if you Jersey Devil takes to the air, the Skinwalker's going to have a tough choice picking who to go for. And we've established that the Jersey Devil can spit fire and acid, and then Jersey Devil's just carpet bombing the Skinwalker at this point.
I think the thing that would maybe give the Skinwalker the edge is going to be that stealth. That stealth
That's what I was
is
gonna
a
say.
big killer.
Throw that into the mix. You don't even, like, as soon as it's in the air, how does it know it's firing at the right animals? If at all, it's what it's aiming for. You know?
Stealth is like a big killer, because if you think about it, like Goatman versus El Chupacabra, that's what gave the Chupacabra the big.
Yeah, his 10 stealth.
Yeah.
The Skinwalker could also become a big cat, climb a tree pretty quickly, and if it has a good leap behind it, take out the Jersey Devil. Or at least remove its ability to fly.
Yeah, I think the Skinwalker, the intelligence ability, and I just kind of think that the Skinwalker's... It's hard to beat a Skinwalker without... And then, but the thing is, though, if the Jersey Devil's been around this long, where's the mortality factor and thing like that? Because is a Skinwalker die with said Indian? I mean, so is there any extra life points, if you will, for that type of thing? Are they harder to kill in general as far as remove the life force from?
I mean, Jersey Devil doesn't have a good defense to start off with anyway.
The thing is that you can also do it to where the Skinwalker just turns to a human and just starts throwing rocks at it.
That's what I was going to say.
And if it takes it down, the Jersey Devil's fucked almost at that point. Unless it can hit it with a solid shot, which highly unlikely with its mobility, but...
Yeah.
Between its intelligence and its stealth, it's really difficult. And the shape-shifting ability. I mean...
And I believe we went off like it has a quick shape-shifting ability when we were talking about it. So yeah, it'd be able to pick through the prime. And if the Jersey Devil had more defense, I could totally see it having a much higher chance of winning the fight. But as soon as it hits the ground and the Skinwalker hits it with like a bison attack,
it's fucked.
It's not lasting.
The intelligence and the ability to choose what you're attacking with next is
it's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, the Skinwalker is going to be one of our highlight characters for this entire episode of Battles.
If it does have the high, or if it does have like a child's mind type of thing, it will be pressured. If it's getting pressured by something, like you see the Skinwalker charging at you, it changes into the fucking bison. It's gonna be like, I can't, and then it's fucking.
Yeah, I think we've come to a pretty good conclusion about this, right?
Yeah, and then it draws down to, like, when I choose to pick a winner, I mean, the Jersey Devil doesn't have many ways to win here. It really has to hit the Skinwalker with a lot of its fire or acid here to take the win. That's to where the Skinwalker's got a few avenues of taking this thing out. Well, to the viewer or the listener who wrote in, there you go. There's your Skinwalker versus Jersey Devil.
Long awaited. It has finally come.
Maybe we'll edit the episodes together to make it sound like it is an episode like that.
Email back, with arguments.
Yeah, throw some facts.
Tell us why we're wrong, or we're right.
Because we're right. Wushuge versus Skinwalker. This is going to be tough.
These are kind of our two big hitters for this. Yeah.
They really are. I mean, I think we have three real mainstays here. Wushuge, Makara, and Skinwalker are definitely the alphas going into this entire episode. And we've already covered two alphas fighting each other. Now we're taking the two Native American creatures that are some of the most deadly and throwing them at each other when they both have their own unique avenues of attacks.
So right off the bat, the Wushuge has the more ranged maneuvers here.
Usually.
Skinwalker has to get up close to do anything, where Wushuge doesn't.
I will say, while the Skinwalker with, what did we go with for his...
Intelligence?
No, his mobility. Cougar. While it does have the same speed as the Makara, it's got the size advantage for mobility. and the knowledge of its environment to use. Because obviously this is most likely going to be taking place in a wooded environment,
forested area,
possibly
for sure.
some snow on the ground. With its intelligence combined with its mobility, speed, and all that, while it's still the same speed number as the Makara, I think it's more advantageous with its mobility in this battle. I think a big deciding factor is going to be dealing damage to the Wishuge, because it does have that armor, so it's going to be needing to hit it with a lot of force to break through.
It's gonna have to hit it with a couple of bison hits.
Oh, yeah. If we go out on a limb here, like a really long-reaching branch, he turns in... This takes place right after his battle with the Jersey Devil. He turns into the Jersey Devil, hits him with some fire breath.
See, that's a good point, but he can't turn into cryptid, so we've already...
Yeah,
We've already
that was my far-reaching
Crippled
limb.
that power.
This is going to be tough because he's got the HP of 7. The defense of 8, I think, is going to help out here with the projectiles. But it's more of a how much is that defense going to help? Because when you take in the Makara, here it's the number thing again. Similar numbers, but the Makara has the scaly defense, while the Skinwalker has more of the fat defense and the fur defense.
It's also changing into different things, so if those things are stuck in him, and it changes to the cougar, it could take off a fucking leg.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. If it shrinks while it's got a large ice projectile buried in its skin, then it fucks itself in some area for sure.
The strategy behind the shape-shifting really comes into factor, because if it's coming at it really has to think about what it wants, because this thing is going to be constantly attacking it with projectiles no matter what the form. So it's like, I need to hit it hard, but I need to choose something that's defense-oriented as well at the same time. So you stick with the bear for the defense and go for its weaker attack.
Or you stick with the bison for more powerful attack, but your defense is cut quite a bit.
Yeah.
Also, Wishuge only having really the fucking drawback of fire really hurts it.
Where the Skinwalker doesn't have very easy access to that at all.
No,
Yeah.
It's going to have to rely on just blunt force, multiple attacks. And we also have to factor in that these blunt force attacks, it's running into basically a wall of ice. So
Yeah.
there's going to be some kickback into just ramming into this thing.
Yeah. Whereas the Makara had the force of the tail, so it could use its own body. This thing's, I mean, its head pretty much is hitting this thing.
It would have to use like a horn to literally just keep choking
Exactly.
at it.
I think it's leaning more towards Wishuge here.
Honestly, the Wishuge is kind of a powerhouse, like the powerhouse here. So
I think
Yeah, it boils down to it could take quite the beating. It doesn't, okay, does it drain the Skinwalker to change forms? Does it, I mean, even if not, well, it's changing, it's trying to guess what it needs to be at any given time. It, to me, is going to take away from its effectiveness in an attack. If it's going from defense to attack to defense to attack.
All right.
And this other thing's just like, fucking bring it.
It's
tough.
It's hard to devise a strategy for the Skinwalker to fight the Wishuge here. And it's really down to, it has to pretty much prioritize one stat over the others, because just constantly changing is really going to bog it down here.
They're both going to know their environment.
Yeah, it's just a really solid, even fighting
They're
field.
both pretty damn smart.
But I think it does have to go to the Wishuge here.
I think the ability, if it didn't have the projectiles, which is probably, I mean, it's what it came down to in the last fight anyway, it's just such a dominant force, you know?
Well, the Wishuge is like an enhanced human, whereas the Skinwalker is changing
It's
from
an
human
alternate,
to other.
Mhm.
It's someone that can't choose their identity, where the Wishuge is more of like, yeah, I know what I am.
I do want to say, without the Wishuge's projectiles, it drops it down a lot in the tier list of all the cryptids we're covering. Just because the projectile is such an overpowered ability in these fights, and I'll bring it up after we've concluded this little talk about this fight, but the projectiles are just so overpowered when it comes to these fights.
Nothing you can really think of that can really dodge the projectiles that it throws too much.
No.
Not from this season.
No. I mean, we could, if we brought in cryptids from past seasons, yes. One that instantly comes to mind is the Chupacabra being as fast as it was.
Small target.
Yeah.
Small
That one
target
was
too.
the 10 stealth, though. I would think
I
the
know we had
Cook
one.
would
It
fuck
was the
this
Omni
thing,
Cook.
but yeah,
That there was another one that we gave. Was that our only speed 10 or
that was
mobility
like speed 10, and then the mobility. What was?
Mobility was 10 as well because this thing could literally go through anything, and so
That's
didn't
right.
have to
And,
worry
and it
about
literally, it wasn't it like it could go through ice faster than normal land or something like that. So the
could
this thing
just-
would just die.
It drills
Yeah,
through
it's-
everything. It would
Yeah.
drill right through the Wishuge.
It could also go through humans from the ground, so
Exactly.
you can't see it, and then it just all.
Yeah, but that's not. We're not bringing the guys from the last fight.
But I mean, the Chupacabra then on top of that would have to bring a campfire to win.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
no.
Yeah.
Just dodging wise, it has that down. Attack wise, it's kind of screwed.
yeah,
Yeah.
It can't break that ice.
No. Let's talk about Wishuge versus the Jersey Devil, who also has a projectile.
Now, Jersey Devil does have the projectile to kill this thing, but other than that, nothing else comes to mind. It can fly, but we should get it as a counter to that.
My main thing was this is the only cryptid we have this time around that would have the sort of advantageous attack towards the Wishuge.
Yeah, but
It's also a smaller target. It has more mobility compared to other competitors.
It's
thing that's
also
gonna kill
dumber
it-
and has less stealth.
Yeah, it can't outsmart.
Yeah.
that kills it is the intelligence.
I think so for sure.
If it had higher intelligence, it probably could.
If this thing
But-
had base human intelligence, I definitely think the Jersey Devil would have a fighting chance. But
I think even if it had matching intelligence, did the Wishuge have a 10 intelligence?
no, he has a 9. Or no, yeah, he had a 10.
He has a
right?
10.
Yeah, because we said that he was an enhanced human. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they were at the same intelligence level, I could see the Jersey Devil definitely winning.
Yeah.
Mainly because he can combat its weakness through its defense.
Mhm.
But let's pick something other than our top competitors here.
Well, that's difficult because I think Makara versus pretty much anything else this season would take an easy victory versus anything that's not the Skinwalker. Just because it's such an overpowered being.
Thunderbird versus Infield Horror. I'm pretty sure Infield Horror would get demolished by a Thunderbird.
Thunderbird just picks it up and
Yeah.
drops it.
Yeah.
He can fly off with you and just,
That's true. Yeah.
Thunderbird versus anything else, Wishuge would win.
Projectiles once again, just easy.
Skinwalker, I think Thunderbird would actually win that one. I don't know how.
that's a tough one.
That's difficult because while it
Bring
can
up the stealth here. If it's hiding in the forest, the Thunderbird's gonna have a difficult time getting to it.
Yeah, but if the Thunderbird is able to get to it, nothing's fucked.
because it's flesh
Yeah.
and blood. And
Yeah, and if it picks it up and drops it, there's nothing it can turn it into to save its life.
I mean,
The only thing I can think of then is that as it's being lifted, it just transforms into something smaller and then falls out of the grasp.
or something
But-
too heavy to fly off
Exactly.
A whale. It
Yeah.
transforms into a whale.
with. Brings it down. I mean, one of Skinwalker's biggest weaknesses is that whatever it is just a natural creature as far as, so you're basing it on that creature's ability to fight.
A supernatural creature, yeah.
I mean, so if you were to take say it's just a bison, well, Thunderbird's going to win.
Yeah, actually, I think that would be a difficult matchup for the Skinwalker.
It would have to outsmart him, which is possible.
Definitely.
Anything that can fly that's a supernatural creature, it's going to be hard for the Skinwalker to win. Because it can turn into an eagle, but that's nothing compared to a giant fucking vulture.
That it's just going to pick you apart quick. I mean, if you watch out birds hunt.
Well, we haven't talked at all about Skunk Ape or Yeti. Any particular matchups there that
Yeti-
wouldn't completely demolish it?
Yeti would be interesting with Wishuge. I'm pretty sure Wishuge would still win, but Yeti would probably have enough strength to keep breaking that fucking armor.
And I also think it might be able to utilize projectiles itself. Albeit,
It might be able to
nothing
Pick
amazing
it, dodge
projectiles.
it, pick it out of the ground, and then throw it at the Wishuge.
Playing dodgeball with some boulders.
There is that.
I was also going to say that I think the Yeti might have an advantage against the Skinwalker.
And the Enfield Horror as well.
Let's talk about the Skinwalker one then.
Just because the Yeti's more attuned to the environment.
The
They'd be fighting
environment.
it anyway. He's also a powerhouse in himself. He has a similar defense to what he'd be rocking.
And a
For bison.
similar strength.
If a bison came attacking him, I don't think he'd be too phased by that. He'd probably be able to fucking overpower that thing.
I still think it could do some damage.
It could do some damage, but if it can get a grasp of its horn and stop it,
It
it
also
can just fucking fling it on the ground and then.
it also limits it in the fact that like a cougar or something like that going through heavy snow is going to be limited, so its mobility goes down.
Yeah, it would definitely have to pick something that's more snow oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Just thought of something with the skinwalker could turn into a venomous snake, however. So
And
that
that's
might
true.
That's true, but that's also a long time.
Yeah.
That's overtime thing.
By the time the venom gets into its system and starts to kill it, the skinwalker most likely is dead.
Yeah.
I think then it could do that and then just stealth it out for the rest of the fight. You kind of just go for a timeout
You
victory.
could, but I think as soon as you try to latch on, because it's still to inject the venom, needs to latch on, then inject the venom. So it's stuck to you, so you grab it and just snap it in half, or just rip it apart, you know?
Especially something like the fucking Yeti. It literally
It
just
needs
grab
to-
it and
also-
crush its head as it grabs it because
With its fangs, you can be able to penetrate
Yeah.
the fur and skin.
And if it did, how much venom does it need to kill this thing? Because, you know, 1 or 2
Yeah.
drops is not enough.
If it's going snake, obviously it would just transform into a megaconda.
Okay, that doesn't realm in the same area.
So
What about the skunk ape? We're leaving the poor guy out.
I don't think
Well,
really
he
stands
gets
a chance against
fucked up by
anything.
pretty much
Yeah.
everything else.
Enfield
Dude.
Horror, maybe, probably not. I think Enfield Horror wins that one too.
Enfield
Yeah.
Horror's faster, and we don't even know
It
if
does
it's
have
affected
better
by the
mobility.
smell.
I mean, are there even like violent reports of the skunk ape as far as people's encounters?
It's
Is it
the
more like-
weakest one we found, mostly because it's just really one guy that's trying to keep this thing going.
Yeah,
And
big thing with that is the one guy who's seen a Bigfoot, which I could believe, but he's blown the whole skunk ape thing just
Just to
completely
keep
out
it
of the
alive
water.
and try and make it its own, give it longevity.
Yeah.
he wants to make himself a big thing based off of it.
The
So.
only viable story I found of the skunk ape was the one where the woman's like, yeah, it looked more like an orangutan that kind of like escaped from a zoo or something.
Yeah, with the apple tree and the
Yeah.
apple, and they're picking
Yeah.
the apples and stuff. I mean, we're not even talking believability, but skunk ape's just a questionable one in general.
He's
Yeah,
not
I mean-
really on par with any of these ones that have been in this season at all.
No, he's definitely
He's the Nessie of this.
the Nessie. He's
It's a big,
What's funny is Nessie was surprisingly low for what that
it's
season
just
we
a
were
big
like-
passive.
Exactly.
he's just doing his own thing there. He didn't fight her.
It's kind of just like the big boat waiting to be. It's not. It's the Titanic versus a battleship. It's
Yeah.
just I got nothing.
Yeah. I mean,
You can sit here
Titanic,
for a while and take a
Titanic versus
beating.
Iceberg didn't go well, so you can tell that.
At that point, Frogman could be Nessie. you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't throw any diss at my boy Frogman. He
No,
won
he
the
said-
free for all
He
there.
said that he could beat Nessie.
Oh yeah. Is there any last ones we want to cover?
I think I
Out of the 3 Bigfoot creatures we've covered, including the Bat Squatch, who do you think
Would
takes
that
the
be 4?
victory?
Bat Squatch.
Not counting Bigfoot himself,
Oh, okay.
just in this season.
Bat Squatch.
Bat Squatch.
I think Bat Squatch is pretty easy. With the sonic voice and the wings.
Flying.
He also has like the ability to maybe not fly, but he has air ability.
Yeah.
And
He has the fucking claws. He has the
Yeah.
fang.
I
That's
forgot
just a
about
He's
monster.
souped up.
Yeah.
He's also rocking some pretty nice fashion as well.
Yeah.
I think we've covered all the ones we really want to talk about, which brings us to an end free-for-all battle between everybody we've talked about. Minus special episode cryptids. What are we thinking going in?
Thunderbird sign first.
Thunderbird?
It's either that or the
Skunk ape.
I-
For sure.
This is
It's
how I see it.
Interesting.
This is how I see it.
Wait,
is
wait,
that
wait,
They,
We haven't even gone over the arena.
It's just a collective of all environments, I thought.
Well, last time it was the dry field with the house in the middle, and in the first one, and
But
the
it was
second
also
one
just like a giant pool of water.
was in the second one. Yeah, it was pool of water with some floating ice.
it was
ice.
the ocean, pretty much.
Yeah, it was like
Ocean
North
with a
Arctic
small
Ocean.
island.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This one.
What was
It
our
has to
first
have-
mashup environment?
It was just
it was
forest.
the open field.
Just
I
an
thought,
open
with
field,
the
yeah.
It was just like an open field with the forest around and everything. That was about it.
Yeah, so we just need a general environment for this.
This one,
the season's been a little bit colder.
It's
I'd
got to
say.
be more of like a mountainous terrain where it has like a slope. And
There's
so
got to be
that-
some way for the Yeti to be a part of this, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's got to be honest.
We
on a
also
mountain.
need a body of water for the Makara.
You don't need it, but it would help. I would
I
see
definitely
it more
think
of like
we
a
should
big
have it.
mountain, and then the Yeti somehow was able to slowly come down, and then it's there.
I'll say this: if we're compensating for Yeti, we should compensate for Makara as well.
That's why I'm saying it's like a slope.
Mountaintop
You have
lake.
I think we could do. Oh, that's actually pretty good. I like that mountaintop.
So it's got land around it.
Mm-hmm.
The Yeti could fit in there.
And there's trees. I like this. Yeah.
Mountaintop Lake. There we
All
go.
right, there we go.
I want to bring up the idea. Do you think Yeti and Skunk Ape possible team up there?
No, because they just fought.
Bad blood,
That's
man.
true.
Bad blood.
No.
I also
If
think the Yeti
anything,
knows that the skunk ape is an inferior
I
version.
think the two that are gonna die first are either gonna be Makara or the.
Why do you think the
Thunderbird.
Makara dies?
You really think the
They're
Makara's
both-
going to die first?
Well, people are gonna gang up on it. They see two big creatures, they're gonna be like, "I need to get
But
rid of
who's
those."
okay? The big thing for this season is who's ganging up.
Yeah, if
because
they're
these
gonna
guys
gang
are
up,
all
who's
very
gonna-
hostile creatures.
We got a lot of heavy hitters here. So
Okay.
who's the heaviest hitter they're going after?
Two, I think that would probably team up because they have the highest intelligence. Is the Skinwalker and the Mushuga. They almost have in human intelligence. Actually, one does.
Do they all fight the Washuge
They
just because
derive
he's so
from
dominant?
similar culture as well.
That's true.
And
Well, so does the Thunderbird. So maybe all three of them make a trio?
Hop on his back and shit.
Oh,
the Shuge hops on the back of the
Lord of the
Thunderbird and they're
Rings
just
style.
flying around,
Just
throwing
literally
icicles at everybody.
flying around.
Thunder's coming down, fucking raining out
Shooting
ice spikes.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. There could be a thunderstorm rolling into the environment as well.
Yeah, as soon as the Thunderbird rolls up, the thunderstorm's not very far
And
behind.
this isn't going to be like the other battles where, when we extend the talk, these battles are relatively quick if they were taking place live, as to where a free-for-all is going to extend over a long period of time. So there definitely will be a thunderstorm rolling in.
Okay, but if the Thunderbird and Skinwalker and Washuge are teaming up, how is Makar gonna live? Because it's obviously now the biggest creature that's not.
It
teamed
hides
up.
in the water.
Yeah, no, I mean, nothing
Skinwalker
can really...
could turn into
A whale.
what have you and go in after him.
But then he doesn't have the other two to back him up. And the Makar is definitely way more dominant than any just normal water creature. I mean, it has 4 limbs and a trunk and
Tusks.
2 tusks.
Ooh, and with the trunk, it could do the water thing, so it could combat fire
From the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And it's already raining, so
Dying-
his
dying
abilities
first
are down bad.
At, like weakest link is gonna be Skunk Ape's first one to go.
He
I
just
think-
gets thrown off the mountain.
It literally Makar is turning to go in the lake and fucking whaps him with the tail and he kind of just flies off the mountain.
I think, yeah, I don't know. His smell's also probably repulsing everyone, so they're just like, fuck this thing. This thing needs to
Yeah.
die.
Isn't he out of Florida? And I mean, nobody likes Florida.
Shots taken,
Just
for
kidding.
sure.
I'm just going for the Florida man reference.
Honestly,
Yeah.
the entire time we've ever brought up the Skunk Ape, that's where my head went, was he's just a Florida man in a
Yeah.
Bigfoot costume.
I mean, I think if anything, the Anfield horror just takes it out as well.
I
Yeah.
think main ones that are gonna die just because they won't team up because they're more.
Solo.
Yeah, it's gonna be Yeti, Skunk Ape, and the Enfield Horror.
And
And it
as
just
much as I
leaves it
like
to
the
him.
Enfield Horror, he's still on the lower scale here compared to everybody else.
And with the lower intelligence as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows if this thing can't drown? The Makara just picks it up and takes it underwater.
The only thing I could think to prolong its time in the free-for-all would just be running and trying to flee from
That's true. It's
cryptids.
just trying to stay fast and stay away.
Yeah, but I don't think you can run as fast as a fucking ice pick is getting thrown.
It's also going to be raining pretty hard if a thunderstorm's coming in, so that reduces its mobility.
So we're going...
Skunk
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 Ape
Ape
is
is
a-
eliminated first.
Yeah,
And then I
just
think-
because of the stamina factor of it, whoever takes him out is going to take him out. It's not going to take more than one to take him out.
If you take Skunk Ape out, Yeti I think would be second, just because he's a big bulky creature, and you'd be like, all right, I don't want to really get close and fuck with that.
You
so
don't think
let's
he'd
go.
last as long as the Enfield Horror?
I think they're both going down. Like, one team's going after one, the other team's going after the other.
One thing for the Yeti, though, is if he has the ability to just start ripping trees out of the ground, I mean, he could use them as a shield. I mean, a defense of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how well that would go for him. If a thunderstorm's coming in and then it hits the tree, it could catch on fire, and then Wushuge's got a big fucking...
I'm more in the field of just prolonging past the Enfield Horror. Like, I think the Enfield Horror probably goes out next.
I think Enfield Horror would be second to go out. While he does have the speed, he's just the smaller, less powerful target compared to a lot of the other ones.
Honestly, I don't know what would happen with a Jersey Devil. Everyone would be focused on those three. Jersey Devil, I don't know if he would have enough high intelligence to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna try and get out of
With
here.
him being the only other real aerial creature, do you think...
He'd fly.
Because I think maybe we're established that the three Skinwalker, Wushuge, and Thunderbird are teaming up at this point. Do you think they would go after the Jersey Devil, him being the only other aerial creature?
Well, if they're
And he's a weakness towards the Wushuge, so he'd be more strategically minded to try and get his group to eliminate his only weakness.
I mean, if he doesn't just take him out himself.
You also got to think about what the group's motives are. Wushuge's obviously thinking for himself. He's just using the other two to get an advantage, and then after that, he's going to try and kill him.
I think the same thing with the Skinwalker. He's also using the other two to take a lot of fire off of himself. I mean, heighten his stealth even more, and he's just becomes a monster.
Even some of the Thunderbird legend is that it's a guardian creature, so he's not going to be out for just himself. He's going to be like, all right, I'm going to help you guys, and then they're going to be like, ha, bugger.
I mean, that almost ties him in with, does he also, as another guardian creature, does he shy away from attacking the Makara? Just because the two are overall
they're similar.
They're closest to deities that we have here, you know?
With their ethics.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a mutual respect for each other.
I think Jersey Devil eventually is going to die as the fourth one. He won't.
So you're still thinking Yeti goes out third?
Yeah.
I think thunderstorms reduce his ability to fly and his fire.
Well, I'm also thinking if they're all three going after him, Wushuge is definitely going after him. He doesn't want anything like that to happen.
Yeah. The minute you start spitting fire, this thing knows it's danger.
And I think that would be relatively early in the fight, just because with the thunderstorm rolling in, it would lessen it, so he's going to try and use it as fast as he can.
Yeah, so maybe Jersey Devil dies next, and then the Yeti's going.
Who's taking out the Yeti?
I
Because
think
we have our group of three
It's
in the
probably
air,
gonna be
then we have Makara in the water, which leaves Yeti.
It's probably me and Wushuge.
Wushuge?
Yeah.
From
It's
the air,
probably-
do you think he's going to the ground?
I think he's sticking to air, and he just kind of starts throwing spikes, and I don't think Yeti has enough mobility to escape that. And so he's just getting pummeled, and it's kind of like where he's slowly running, and he's just getting pummeled more and more until he just dies.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that leaves us with 4, our top dogs of this season. How are the 3 going to combat the Makara being in the water?
I definitely think
Thunderbird, if he has, I don't think he has abilities to make lightning strike there.
no.
Doesn't have control over it. Something
But
said
if
he has
the
lightning
does-
in his eyes, but that's just a visual.
Yeah.
If the lightning does strike in the water, Makara's fucked.
I don't know if he's completely screwed. It would deal some damage, but that's also, you just have to hope that it would hit the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with Thunderbird staying in one area, and so that's where all the thunderstorms are gonna be at.
I thought of it more of just a thunderstorm rolling over.
taking in. Yeah. It's more of a change of scenery, kind of like Ghost of Tsushima when you whistle and then the
Yeah,
whole
the wind
storm
blows.
takes over. Yeah.
I almost feel like at this point, Skinwalker and Wushuge would have to retreat to the ground to try and draw out the Makara.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I think that
And then maybe they, with their brains and strategy, still use each other to team up to defeat the Makara.
I mean, to me, that seems easy enough to do. Going back, because there'd be 2 on the one.
And then Wushuge
One just has
already
to draw
won
it out.
against him.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Thunderbird is doing at this time, except for maybe flying by and.
I think after Makara dies, Wushuge's then gonna go after the Thunderbird.
Do you-
Kind of Yeah,
Yeah.
literally just throw a fucking ice spike, send him down, and he's done.
I think the Thunderbird's in a tough spot because he has his two buddies over here going against the Makara, who's been seemingly idle, but also isn't like this super hostile creature. And him and the Thunderbird share a kind of spiritual kind of bond.
I was gonna say maybe they try to team up against the two higher intelligence.
My thing just comes into a factor of maybe a mutual respect between the Thunderbird and the Makara for their kind of deity roles that they share.
I don't. Maybe the
Maybe the Thunderbird would sympathize with the Makara.
Thunderbird doesn't have too much of a high intelligence, so I don't know if he'd notice it in time. It's kind of like one of those things where they die and then you realize what you've done, or they're dying and then you realize it, and so then you try and fix it, but at that point it's already too late. Ushige's already gotten his way. And
I mean, I think it'd be a relatively quick fight between the Washuge
As soon as
and
he's
Skinwalker
done,
versus the Makara.
yeah, and as soon as they're done, he would the Thunderbird, unless they bonded in the beginning with them, he bonded with the Makara in the beginning. As soon as they're done using him, they're gonna take him out.
Oh, 100%.
Be like, thanks for the ride.
Yeah.
And it'd be pretty fucking quick, too. It's not going to be like some long, drawn out thing.
Because the Thunderbird's going to be out of the picture the same speed whether he teams up with Makara or not, really, because his limited attack concept, the fact he's going to be flying around this open air.
And I mean, just one stray shot to a wing from either the Washuge or the Skinwalkers taking him mobility-wise out. So then that just brings us down to Washuge versus Skinwalker.
now, here's my thing. Thunder has been striking. Trees are on fire. Fire is spreading around now.
Yeah, fire spreading around. The rainstorm's starting to calm down since the Thunderbird died. Now it's starting to calm down. Fire's spreading.
Washuge's also been just constantly throwing his ice spikes. He's got to be getting tired here.
He's also had been getting damage, being more of the attacker there.
He's also a bigger target.
What's he using to produce the ice spikes, too? Does he become smaller the more he... Does he have to replenish any source? I wish I
Draining
knew
his-
that.
Yeah.
The crazy thing you can think about is at the very beginning of the rainstorm, if he turns all of the raindrops into ice, he just kills everyone.
That's
That's a
something.
good point. That's his quick victory.
He could freeze the lake with that concept.
That's true. Then the Makara is frozen solid. This guy's
There's
more
some-
powerful than
there's
we're
some
even giving him
scenarios
credit.
there.
But let's just hop down to Washuge. Worn out. He's got to be tired at this point. There's fire around him, so it's heating up the environment around them.
And also, with the intelligence that the Skinwalker has, he has to know to be able to be like, okay, now I can use this.
I mean, he hasn't used many moves this
Yeah,
whole fight, honestly.
he really has only fought when they fought the Makara.
now it's
So
probably just
he's
draw him
still
out.
fine.
All you'd have to do is just keep ramming him towards something. That'd be tough.
And there wouldn't be too much of a gap he would need to close because they'd still be relatively close to each other after taking out the Makara and the Thunderbird. I almost think the Skinwalker in this scenario could pull out a victory over the Washuge.
That's what I was going to
Just because he's so weakened and obviously has taken more of the damage from the Makara fight.
he's the primary fighter throughout this whole thing, so...
Yeah, he would be stamina down.
It's a frogman situation again. where
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Everyone's been fighting, but the Skinwalker's kind of just been the...
He could just be changing into things back. Look, I'm the this over. I'm just a happy reindeer.
I'm just the bee flying around.
That's true. I mean, since the beginning of the fight, it doesn't even mean that Skinwalkers had to do anything, you know?
Yeah.
He could have just been here as an animal the whole time observing, and...
Letting each other pick each other off. And if we do take it from the point where he didn't team up with the Thunderbird and Washuge, the Washuge would have had to fight the Makara on his own, weakening him even further, which would almost seem like more of a Skinwalker thing to do. Just
Yeah.
not get involved whatsoever.
I mean,
And
stealth
then
10
reveal
says
himself
a lot
at
for
the
him.
end when he stands up on his hind legs.
Yeah,
And
and
then
then instead of running away, he runs right into him, and he's just like, fuck you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty solid. I think in both scenarios, the Skinwalker could pull out on top pretty
Yeah.
relatively
I think
easily.
there's more ways for the Skinwalker to come out on top than not.
It really just came down to
Timing, once again. I mean, that's how the Lord and Savior Frogman pulled it out.
That's how Wendigo pulled it out, if you think about it.
Yeah, that's true. He delayed that whole thing too. So.
Well, and that's where the one-hit wonder of Washuge kind of comes back to bite him in the ass. Because what was his winning point all along? If it comes down to the end and there's the forest fire action going on, there it is.
Yeah, well, Shuge was like 3 steps ahead of everybody. The Skinwalker's like 10 steps ahead of him.
And you didn't even know he was 10 steps ahead of him. He was just
like,
he was honestly just like,
he's
see
like,
how this plays
I see
out.
how much is going on. I don't want to be part of it.
This is chaos.
I see this thing with 3 legs. No. This thing that looks like Bigfoot, but it's like an ape and it's a giant. No.
Yeah.
And it really comes to show how much stealth comes more into play in these free-for-all battles than it really does the one-on-one fights, too. But
and then you got the resolution: the Skinwalker can just turn back into a person and hitchhike home.
Oh yeah,
or gets found by the hikers up on the mountainside. And
I mean, yeah, in a theoretical scenario like that, he could just pretty much become anonymous again. But I mean, these are also fights that we just drop everyone in.
But I think Skinwalker brings home the cake and is welcomed into the Hall of free-for-all winning champions, which has, what is it, Wendigo? Frogman.
Yes.
Now, so you have these 2 terrifying monsters in the hall, and then you just got a frog wearing some pants.
Hell
and
yeah.
He's just chilling.
Hey,
whips his sparkler out.
All I'm saying is the 10th mashup contest of champions or something? I don't know.
Oh god. What, we'll have to have covered 80 cryptids by then? So stick around for the long haul.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
But yeah, that draws us near the end. We've decided our winners here today. But before we go, I want to get your opinion on some believability of all the cryptids, Justin. What's your viewpoint of this whole thing? Because we got skeptic, 2 pseudo-believers. Where do you fall on our alignment chart?
Believability factor on each one?
In general, if there's some
cryptids.
More you believe, or some you believe a lot less.
I believe a lot less than some, and do I 100% believe in any of them now? Would I like to? Yeah. I mean, I grew up around the real campfire stories in the mountains in Oregon. I live by Mountain Lassen, so of course I want Bigfoot to be my one real one if I have a choice. But like believability in the Thunderbird, possible. Not maybe as big as described, but bigger than we see today, or
yeah, kind of like
that kind of thing. Maybe not on the scale of picking up whales or even a full-blown deer, but a bird big enough 16-foot wingspan is not that crazy.
No.
Now, if we're talking 40-foot wingspan, I still think is in the realm of possibility, but you are going to be a big, noisy, unstealthy creature.
Oh, yeah.
You're sounding like a helicopter at that point.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the Megaconda, where there's big snakes, something that big, possible. Right
like
now,
that.
probably not.
Probably
but
more so
like
in the
that
past
existed
than...
before our time.
Skinwalker stuff, I think that there's stuff creepy and close enough to make that almost a real thing.
I mean, if
You might not be turning into an animal, but you might just be that crazy Indian covering yourself with deer skin and running around the woods doing crazy shit.
If you hear the stories of like Skinwalker Ranch and stuff, that it makes you believe.
Yeah, I mean,
like
Skinwalker
the wolf that
Ranch.
they shoot point blank, and it's just like, yeah, all right.
That's just such a great story in its own.
Yeah.
And then there's Stardust Ranch as well.
Well, because that one ties into then, does that make our Skinwalker bulletproof? Projectile proof. You know what I mean? But so there is those layers to things.
It took a really heavy round of just to even get the thing off of the calf that it was attacking, and it was still unfazed at that point.
Yep.
Patreon episode. Talk about Skinwalker Ranch. That's one of my favorite things
other
ever.
Fucking areas we can think of that are pretty creepy.
Just a local
Stardust
area.
Ranch.
Yeah.
We can literally go to Area 51.
True.
Be cool to go to all those places just because all the places they have crazy lights.
Oh yeah. Well, especially just Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, even to this day, there's some sketchy stuff going on. I mean, most recently, there's a new company that owns it. Adamantium Holdings is the name of the company, and you really can't trace it to any one person that owns the company, any other company that owns it. It's a weird scenario with Skinwalker Ranch.
Well, the cool thing is like it's known to exist. It's not a denied thing
Oh
at
yeah,
this
no,
point.
it's not just some made up area. This place exists. You can go. Probably can't get close, but you can go to it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Devon's driven by it.
Yeah, I know the general area where it's at. You can get close enough to be like, out over there.
We'll have to go to Mothman Festival at some point.
I just wish the statue was better. I don't like the Mothman statue.
Yeah, his jacked body just
That's why.
hit the gym 5 times a week.
That's why. I'm like, that's not what he looks like in my head anyway. But
No. But any other believability you want to cover before we sign off on this episode?
I just believe more in the bigger, weird versions of things that still sort of exist.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they're the easiest ones to really put any credit towards.
Yeah, I don't go too far into the why don't we have proof of certain things yet. Mine is more of the how
How did
realistically
we get
possible is it this thing even existed.
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
Do I want shit like the Enfield horror to exist? Fuck yeah. I want to think there's some crazy 3-legged thing out there that you're going to be like, what the fuck? But,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some weird shit, but nothing that weird. Stuff that I was like, I don't know what that was, and then later can figure it out. I mean, just like last year, my girlfriend and I drove by something on the side of the road, and I'm like, what the fuck is it?
Don't go get out of the car.
I got out and went and fucking took
no.
up close photos, and then I go home and go, I'm going to figure out what this is. It was a river otter,
Oh.
but it was out above Yuba City, but you know, there's all that irrigation all the way through up there. But it was a river otter that was as big as a dog. But looking at it, it had like the webbed feet. So I'm seeing this webbed feet, super short skin, but the face is like, what? It looks like a dog and a cat, and so of course I'm like, I don't, what the fuck is this? And then driving home though, I'm like, it looks like a seal, an otter, and then I'm like, an otter, but way bigger than a sea otter. And then I googled that shit, and I was like, okay. And I looked at real pictures, and I'm like, all right, yeah. And then driving the back road one time, now I'm pretty sure it was a bobcat, but like just parked on the side of the road doing stupid teenage shit on the side of the road in the dark. And a thing came out of the bushes, stubby, yay big, with no real face, but this was just in the dark, generic headlights back in the day, and started making just a ow noise, right? So I decided either a bobcat, just because the stubby flat face, or somebody's like pug or some shit with a parking fucking problem. But you know, back then I hadn't seen as much shit where I was just like, and on a dark road it's twice as creepy when something makes that noise.
Oh, well,
yeah.
In the middle of, it was like the depths of Alta Sierra, but that kind of shit, you know. And like I said, I grew up with all the Bigfoot stories and UFO stories around campfires when I was a kid.
I think that draws us to a near, possibly our longest episode yet.
Oh,
yep,
for sure.
It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. I'm going to have a long next couple days.
Yeah. Have fun editing
Special
this, bro.
episode.
Yeah,
Special
you're getting
guest.
the next one.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
going to do
for
whatever
sure.
in my power to get you to edit the next mashup. But that's been everybody here at Cryptid versus Cryptid, concluding another season, another mashup.
It's great having Justin on.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, yeah. You'll definitely be back if we can get you.
Keep me endeavoring at the same time, you'll be in trouble.
Oh, yeah. We'll
I
do
don't know if
something
we'll fit
like
in
that.
there.
Yeah, we might have to relocate her. Just smash this up against the wall right here.
Yeah.
We'll be back next 2 weeks, the start of a new season. It's going to be a long one running into next year. We got some special stuff planned coming up. Tune into Patreon. Got some more special stuff coming up over there. And this has been us signing off.
Yeah.
Later.
See ya.
See ya.